Hey dudes, welcome to Four Nerds, episode 33.
We'll have
Can
to
we kill him
watch
already?
Why don't you like cousin Skip?
Are we just gonna?
Is it immersed?
Are we just gonna violently murder birds' voices one by one?
Yeah, sure.
Until he runs out. We eventually hit the normal one, and we just take that one out too, and he has to just change forever. Oh no! He becomes what, Cousin Beaker or whatever.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cousin
Oh, no.
Beaker.
I don't know.
That's you hit me right in the childhood.
Why is it called Cousin Beaker? Why does that come to mind?
Because
Let's
I just
see.
said cousin
Well,
Skip.
Cousin Skip
Oh.
comboed with
Yeah.
Beaker.
Yeah.
I feel like maybe it was from one of the specific like scenario movies where everyone's a stand-in for some other member of a play that they're doing a movie on. Like Christmas Story, the number one Muppets thing I'm exposed to. I was just watching the Christmas Carol over and over again growing up.
Yep.
Yep.
Alrighty, so anybody got any topics they want to talk about? We're doing a
do
fun
we
little
wanna-
pre-show.
I got
where
one
we're
last
talking
fuck
about
you from Andromeda.
roguelikes.
Okay.
Oh boy, we'll hear that
Oh.
one.
So I reached
Yeah,
the
'cause-
finale of the entire game, and my penultimate episode is the real finale climax of the episode, and the last one is like a feature-length farewell of talking to people. So my penultimate
Okay.
episode is like the real finale thing, and like it can't be watched on anything besides a PC browser because they featured a song at some point. I'm like, God,
Oh, what kind of
Nice.
song?
series dies hard.
It's probably some
I don't
pop
even know.
song that's like, I'll love the
No,
stars.
it wasn't even a standout thing. It must have been
Oh.
some dumb background thing used in a cutscene somewhere that was licensed from something. And I'm like, I can't even be bothered to fix it. Just people are going to have to watch it on a computer.
You know what makes me wonder
All you
sometimes
iPad users.
if games ever like license or have like the right to use a specific song, and it, for all intents and purposes, was exclusive to that, but somehow that song was sold to someone else in the interim, and then there's copyright issues.
So
Yeah,
that's basically the copyright nightmare scenario you're outlining.
Well, generally when you license something to a game, you're not licensing it to all the YouTubers that will cover stuff for the game. So like that always becomes a conflict regardless. But there's
what
also
if that
an
becomes
additional
used in a
issue.
commercial? I've seen that too.
If it's
where-
licensed, you can license the
Yeah.
thing to multiple things. That's fine. When you license something, you're not saying you own this song. You're saying you're licensing it, as in like you're letting them use it in their thing for whatever sort of payback is agreed upon or whatever the hell. Be it like a percentage or a one time or whatever the policy is. I don't know what's normal there, but like
But haven't
licensing
companies
is
gone
not
after
ownership.
people for having quote unquote their song when it really isn't their song?
Well, that's
It was
yeah,
just a song
but
that was
that's
used
just
in
the
their
thing.
like Vanilla
That's
Ice. Are we talking about like Vanilla Ice straight up using like Queen and stuff like that?
No,
And all being like, it's
like copyright trollage
da.
and stuff like that.
Then you also have issues where like a game or something will license music and then the music license goes away
yeah,
because they didn't
Yeah.
negotiate it for perpetuity
that's
or whatever. So
why
then
That's
Alan Wake
annoying.
disappears forever.
Yep. Yeah, Alan Wake is gone.
Like this love
can-
letter to Stephen King games from a company that's only made one game since, which was Quantum Break or Theory or whatever. That's it. Their game's gone forever. No one can buy Alan Wake now.
Oh,
It was on
At
sale
least I
for
have a
$1,
copy.
so everyone had a chance to buy it last second for
Yep.
because Steam will still keep it on the servers as a thing you can re-download, but you can't sell it ever again. Licensing sucks for video games sometimes. Like the Marvel Ultimate Alliance 2 had all these different DLC packs, but the DLC packs weren't licensed for long term. So like when it was around the time Disney was purchasing Marvel and stuff like that, like all the DLC for Marvel Ultimate Alliance 2 just started disappearing piece by piece. And those characters
that's
were
right,
just gone
because it was
forever.
the different heroes they weren't able to.
And it's infuriating because
licensing for.
the character select screen is the entire. It's like everyone standing back to back with like for like a class photo. Like so, like you can see the black silhouettes of all the characters you can't buy. They're both not in the game, but they're also already black silhouettes, even though they're DLC, which is already scummy. But also the DLC isn't available ever again. I also own like a few hundred Rock Band songs you can't buy now. Because even there, like those eventually started dying out, especially since like Rock Band at one point, quote unquote, like died at one point. with the death of the 360 and everything. They're like, that's the end of our franchise. We make dancing games now. But then the Xbox One didn't just stop shipping with the Kinect, and the Kinect basically died. Like, we don't make dancing games anymore. They started making Rock Band 4. Well, you might find fitting, though, their last song ever released was American Pie, the day that music died.
Oh,
like, you know, they had that in their back pocket for their finale song.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes me wonder how many games are out there that were only ever released on disc that have never been
billions.
ported digitally.
Anything before
tons.
Steam, pretty much.
Yeah,
like there are a couple.
I found out that like
a significant part of the early 360 and PS3 games.
What?
What happened to those? Stuff being disc only.
Oh yeah,
digital wasn't normal at the beginning of that console generation. Like the Xbox, like there was the Xbox 360 Pro and the Xbox 360 Arcade, and the arcade model that was meant for downloading games only really just for downloading the arcade games. It had something like a 50 megabyte hard drive or something, because they only planned on releasing arcade games that were like Atari, and that quick like when they put Symphony of the Night on there, they had to remove all the cutscenes.
You want to know something kind of funny that I learned the other day? Westwood Studios, the people that made Commander and Conquer and Dune and all those good games from back in the day, also made a series of like point-and-click adventure games. They're awful. They're called The Legend of Kyrandia. I mean, well, they're good, but point-and-clicker adventure games are like bad, like just by kind of definition.
Point-and-click adventure games?
Yeah. It varies.
Well, what about like Machinaria and stuff?
Machinarium is great.
Machinarium.
Oh, I haven't played that one yet.
Botanicula.
It's amazing.
Samorost. Those are all the same company, actually. Dead Synchronicity.
Yeah.
There's some really cool stuff out there.
Shardlight.
I've never heard of any of these titles.
There's a lot of modern
there's entire companies that just make these now.
Yeah.
And they have like high quality pixel art.
You know, they died like pretty hardcore.
No,
I guess they might have found a
Wadjet Eye
renaissance or
games.
something.
Yeah, Wadjet Eye more or less lives off of these.
Maybe.
The thing is, like, point-and-click genre died.
Yeah,
the moment
around the PS2 era.
Yeah, it died then, and then with the indie revival, there have actually been a lot more lately.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And that's actually
Gemini
kind of
Rue,
cool.
the Blackwell series.
Yeah.
I mean, puzzle games still utilize a lot of these.
Everyone always tells me to play this one particular one I can't remember the name of ever.
I thought they were still dead, but I guess they had a resurrection.
Yeah, point-and-click games are fun because you have a minimalist 2D perspective usually, and you can usually like come up with a really crazy universe for your game to take place in. Like
and you can have a lot of nice 2D assets and stuff too.
Yeah, like Shardlight was like this carefully constructed post-apocalyptic society with multiple warring factions, almost like a Fallout scenario, and it was all set up for a point-and-click that actually had like decisions built into it, but also the usual structure of like find items and figure out where you can solve puzzles with them and stuff like that.
I think that
Primordia, there's one.
Yeah, Primordia. I'd said that earlier. Isn't that like new kind of cyberpunky game that we saw at E3 that was like pixel art but with 3D included?
That's I can't tell what that is still.
Yeah, I can't tell what that is, but it looks like it might be point and click.
Look at the art for Tormentum Dark Sorrow.
Yeah, ooh, Tormentum is nuts.
Tormentum looks insane. I'll post a link in our Discord real quick.
All right, let me look at this.
Freaking point and clicks are a thing still.
Yeah, they thrive mainly only on the indie market. Yeah.
I have a lot of point and clicks on my to-do list now. Ever since I made a dedicated puzzle game slot.
Yeah,
so I've got a big old spreadsheet of future possible ones to play.
Well, I guess you had a response ready that I was not prepared for. So good for you, Kufa Manga.
We all learn things here.
This is an educational podcast.
Yes, an educational thing about stuff that doesn't matter.
Yes. That's why we need
a very specific number of people.
Have you been all working on your British accents and your video game lore? Oh.
Nope.
Wait, what?
Well, that's a shame. making an allusion to it. Shut up, dog. I'm making an allusion to the Vadi video.
Dog?
Oh,
there was some dog outside of my apartment that was like going like bow wow and bark. That's like the least enthusiastic dog impersonation I could have come up with.
Arf, arf.
At least
How
it's not
weird would it be if you like
Dog.
walked outside and there was just a big dog and it's like bark, just says bark at you, and you're like, I would love that dog forever.
An onomatopoeia dog.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, okay, not to derail too far off the beaten path, but here we
As
go.
if we had a topic so far. I don't.
Onomatopoeias are bullshit. Have you ever heard a bird go chirp? No bird can even make a P sound, okay?
Nothing
they don't have
destroys
lips.
onomatopoeia harder than hearing another country's onomatopoeia. And you
Like,
literally can't put it together.
I don't remember any off the top of my head, but I do
For me,
know
the
what we're
go-to
talking
is
about.
Japanese. Like Japanese will just like they have a trope where like a voice will just yell onomatopoeia out during stuff,
Huh?
and like you just can't put together what, like, because it's in a different language, you can't even put together the connection between like the sound they're making and the sound it's supposed to be illustrating.
Oh, so you
Oh,
mean
interesting.
they say things like taka taka, like I'm trying to
Doki
remember.
Doki, you make my heart beat.
What is Doki Doki?
It's the heartbeat sound.
No, it
Yeah.
isn't.
You make my
It
heart
is. So
go
it's like-
a Doki Doki.
My heart has never gone
Doki,
Doki Doki Doki.
And
I guess I can kinda hear it.
there's a Japanese commercial where like they're in like a house floating, like the up house with balloons and stuff, and the dog turns around and spins his tail to propeller the house away, and he's like goro 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 goro. I'm like, what? What?
Haven't you ever heard a
Oh,
dog go
that's-
goro 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 goro?
Yeah,
That's probably the
that's what a propeller sounds like. It's goro 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 goro. Or it sounds like E Honda.
I looked up Doki Doki, and the fifth result is a fan art of Aaron from Game Grumps feeling an anime girl up. I'm gonna
Doki
go ahead
Panic.
and close this.
That's a game called Doki Doki Panic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Super Mario Bros. 2.
There's also a much less perverted game called Doki Doki Universe, which is a game about teaching a robot to love.
Doki Doki Panic is... Wait, what?
Also,
Doki Doki Panic is Super Mario Bros. 2. What are you talking about?
oh, is it? Whoops.
Yeah,
Wait, so then what's
there's a lot of things called
Dokipon?
there's a lot of Doki Doki things
probably, yeah.
because it's onomatopoeia.
True.
But in Doki Doki Universe, you play a robot trying to learn how to be humans, and it's adorable, really
All right.
adorable.
Anyway, so let's try to get back onto a
It's the
topic, I
opposite of
guess.
Tormentum.
My bad on wanting to rant about onomatopoeia, which ended up not actually going
After
anywhere.
wanting to rant
So-
about how bad adventure games are.
So can we talk about Fortnite a bit? I know you guys
Yeah,
really didn't get too
let's do
much
it.
of a chance.
Yeah, I've played
Um,
about 10 minutes of it, or
yeah,
2 hours of it.
Half an hour, 45 minutes. I
I
got the gist of it.
we got enough for like 2 episodes for me, but I actually really like that game. I was kind of going into it with iffy expectations because they had like the durability system on guns, and I'm like, oh, that's not good.
Yeah,
But-
but it's very inconsequential.
Yeah, as far as I've run into, and I've played a fair bit more than you guys, just because I was kind of, well, my audience is like, stream it, and I'm like, but nobody's around. And they're like, stream it anyway, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I was looking at the top corner of your stream, and I'm like, he's in double digits already? I'm so confused.
Yeah.
He's like,
Play
I'm level
shit.
15.
Yeah, I actually I have no idea how the level system works in the game. So, Fortnite is the deepest RPG mechanics I've ever seen applied to a sandbox-based defense
Yeah.
game, which is like the two things together are almost impossible for me to like understand because it's so deep, like trees and level ups, and
Yeah,
there's
I'm
like
having issues.
squads and weapons, and each weapon has different upgrade paths that you can go down to, and it's just like how I love this, but also like why? You could just give me like
Maybe
X gun and just say this is good enough and I'd be happy, but they went that extra mile and now I'm really confused.
It's probably so that you have some kind of weird incentive that you wouldn't have had before if there weren't those trees.
They put so
going.
many. They just crammed as many Skinner boxes as they possibly could cram in there. And
it's everything you click on. Every icon on the main menu opens up a Skinner box. It feels
overwhelming. It is like
it's
like modern Tales game level of like too many progression systems.
Yeah, because they've got
like in Tales of
progression.
Berseria, you can level up vendors for some reason.
Survivors.
Buying and selling from vendors levels them up, and I was like, now I'm a level 7 fruit vendor. What? You level up your weapons, and then when you level up the weapons, the skills apply to your character, and you level up the skills that applied from that. I'm like, what? What's happening? Like, this is kind of in that territory a little bit of like, what? Oh god, there's more progress. I clicked on a progress bar and it opened more progress bars. They're hiding inside of each other.
All in all, though, I kind of appreciate that, because like once you kind of get the general gist of how each one of them works, none of it seems like terribly out of place, just kind of maybe a bit needless.
The amount of
like,
control you have might be
thing.
frustrating in the long term.
Yeah, well,
like,
it doesn't have that Warframe thing of just being like, so how do I actually get better? Because I hit max level and I still suck. Whereas this one's very clear.
Well, now we have to worry about RNG a bit, because like when you beat levels, you get skill points. That's nice and straightforward for the skill tree. But then you have the other thing, which is you have another window where under the skill tree, there's the research tree, and you get those by waiting for them to accumulate in a researcher that happens automatically, and you have to keep checking back at it like it's a Facebook game. And then you also get random booster packs that are the primary source of experience that you spend on yourself and your guns and your schematics and your
I actually
survivors.
really like it. It doesn't make that much sense, but so I'll break it down. So at the end of every level, you get those treasure chests. They give you I don't know what the people resource is used for. I think you need like your actual base before you can spend that anywhere.
Yeah, we haven't built our base up, and a lot of our survivors.
Yeah, so we have to progress in the story to unlock that. But the little EXP tokens, I actually really like that, because instead of being like, okay, so you use this gun here, you get X amount of EXP for it, and all those other guns you didn't use, you get nothing. Instead, you get a resource that you can spend to level a gun up intentionally, which I think is good, because say if you're like playing a high-end mission and you've got this new gun you want to use, but it's under-leveled because you just got it, all you have to do is just start feeding the resources from using your higher-level gun that you got doing a higher-level mission with your higher-level guns, and you start feeding them back into that lower-level gun, and eventually it catches up. And
I was able to build my firework pistol finally.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, there's a firework pistol.
It's sort of
very
interesting.
festive.
It has all these, like, it looks like a sparkly flare when you fire it, but it bounces off the ground once, and it does AoE damage to everything around it. So it's a little bit finicky when it comes to actually targeting, because it has an arc in the reticle. It actually has some kind of denotations for, like, what kind of arc you're going to be firing it at. So sometimes you're aiming at something and it drops too low and it hits the ground, but then it might bounce up into the enemy that you're aiming at anyway. And if you directly hit at least the low-level enemies, it just incinerates them immediately, which I think is pretty cool. But it's interesting. I don't know if it would be my main go-to thing anymore, but it's interesting to craft it.
But you mentioned RNG. I'm not actually too worried about RNG, except for characters. I think getting new characters is going to be a bit of a problem.
Yeah,
I was just buy them.
I haven't got any of the.
That's the business model, because it's going to be a free-to-play game ultimately.
Yeah,
like just buy the things you want, like League of Legends.
But like, remember how I was running around the levels and then telling you guys to come check out these like treasure chests to like just open up? They oftentimes will have like good weapons in them. And I believe there's a system, once you unlock I think it's the scrapbook or the collection book or whatever, then you can turn weapons that you found into blueprints so you can remake them as many times as you want. But what that means is I could potentially give you a gun and you can turn it into a blueprint and then keep it for yourself. So after that point, the only real sticking point is running low on resources. You can't make new things, so Shell needed more gunpowder. Which was initially a bit of a problem.
Because we couldn't find coal.
Yeah.
Even the nodes that looked like they had coal in them didn't. It was weird.
But, I mean, honestly, I don't know. It seems mostly sane, just a little bit slow to kind of incentivize that cash shop system, which does feel kind of dirty. I don't know.
We'll have to see. I can't judge it much until I actually spend some real time with it. My big concern is just whether or not there's going to be any... I can't tell yet whether there's going to be actual tactical gameplay or not with the building, or if it's just going to be like, just shoot everything. Because definitely the early missions...
I would hope so. It would be a huge missed opportunity. Like, this is kind of a very rare opportunity to actually have like a new type of gameplay that actually digs into being able to build things freely. And if they don't do that, then...
They definitely do need
screw it up.
better AI. I was running into some issues, so I was running a random mission at the end just because I was tired and didn't want to do anything else. And it was another one of those like kill the storm missions where you're supposed to defend that like weird ring thing. And it was at the end of like a ramp that would like zigzag back and forth, and I was up at the top. And so the enemies had to zigzag up like a natural stone ramp, and eventually they got to the top where my base setup was. And there was just a little bit of like the platform jutting out over the edge of the...
Fall off of it or something?
No, they wouldn't fall off of it.
Oh.
They would be walking up the ramp, and after a certain point, they would be close enough to like come in contact with just the smallest bit of that overhang that is not blocking their progress at all. But they'd immediately be like, ooh, something to hit, and they just start beating on the underside of my base, even though it is not blocking their progress whatsoever. And so I had to sit there shooting the guys that were going for my base, and not the guys trying to get into my base, because they just die because I lined the entire thing with traps. And it was just kind of this weird chore of being like, come on, your pathing is better than this. It should be. I mean, honestly, they die really fast, so it's not a big deal, but...
I think the obvious concern to voice is just the idea that, like, base defense and tower defense style games are inherently kind of like a puzzle-solving type thing. Like, how do I tackle this problem? And so the moment you add tons of meta progression and stuff like that, you start screwing with the balance of that kind of experience.
Yeah.
Like, we have a meta progression thing, and then also, like, I was really shocked to find out, for example, that, like when you load into a map, you go scavenge stuff. And like in my head, I'm like, oh, you'll scavenge stuff and you'll make stuff out of a limited pool of stuff that's like balanced.
But no, you can carry resources in with you.
Yeah, not only can you carry resources in from other missions, but you can just like craft a billion different guns and even already be holding them before you start the mission and already have pre-crafted 100 different traps that you can just place anywhere. And I'm like, there's kind of no balance system.
I'm just hoping that I'm just hoping they just kind of keep it as this, like, weird arms race where, like, the enemy difficulty ramps up more and more and more until you have to be like, okay, maybe I have to, like, kind of mess around and, like, rethink, but also regrind so I have some of the better traps as whatever, as opposed to, like, constantly just having the enemies kind of just be weak fodder that you kill forever.
Yeah, like, on one end, you have, like, the relatively hardcore, tightly... balanced experience that was like the first Orcs Must Die before the meta progression systems that were added or even multiplayer was added, and on the other hand you have Warframe where you're kind of not thinking and everything's exploding and a billion numbers are happening. And it'll be interesting to see where this balance is between the two.
I will say, seeing as you bring up Warframe, there are actually like difficult missions that you have to think, team composition, whatnot, but that's, you know, very definitively kind of like the end game. That generally the grind is like
significant amount of Warframe is like playing, well, a lot of Diablo.
Yeah.
Like, no, I have most of the game is Diablo. I click on things till they die.
Most of the game is Diablo, but every once in a while it turns into like WoW raid style of like, okay, so you need these people in this role to do this thing, otherwise you're doomed. And it's kind of refreshing when that happens, but also like hard.
Did you also have a puzzle where people got incinerated?
Yeah, right? So Warframe has 2 raids, and I did one of them a couple weeks ago, and it was actually rather enjoyable because it was like each mission had a different like weird puzzle mechanic that you had to do on top of your standard objectives. And so like one of them was there was a panel on the far end that would light up, and you'd have to go stand on a pad corresponding with that icon. I mean, it's not the most complicated puzzle ever. But so you had to do this in coordination with 8 people, and also you're getting inundated with really high-level enemies that are killing you, so you have to, like, more or less use up your disposable people first. But then also, since none of us were in TeamSpeak together, except for Effie and myself, it was like playing telephone, because Effie wouldn't tell anybody how the puzzle worked. He was just telling people where to stand. So it was like one of the hardest puzzles I've ever done, purely because of human error and a couple other things. But once I got it, I was like, oh, this is actually kind of not bad. And you also had to do like bomb running, so you could weaken the boss. And a couple
you
other
didn't have
things.
any sluice gates.
No, there were sluice gates. There was definitely several sluice. That's where I got the idea for the sluice gate.
Anyway?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. But yeah, that's where I got the idea for the sluice gates, because we were having so much trouble with it. I was like, oh, they're going to hate this. And they did.
I had a great time because I solved the puzzle immediately.
You did. And then you didn't tell anybody how it worked, and then you disappeared.
No, we knew
I led by
how
example.
to get out
He
his
really
way.
he didn't really solve it. He just used other people to get through it in a way that was not at all tenable long term
We were
for the
trying to
rest of the
figure out a
party.
way to get everyone through. And unfortunately, it just meant brute force.
Bird did the equivalent of the ending of We Were Here.
Yes.
Yes.
Where you're like,
we already-
hey, can you
we
stand on
already
that for a
said
second? Oh, peace out, bye. Enjoy dying here.
Hey, nobody died.
Like, a sluice
try
is
harder
literally
next
just
time.
like when there's a controlled waterway where water goes through a thing. The sluice gate is just the thing you lower that controls either how fast or stops the water flow. Because like if you lower it down into the water like several feet, then you're letting less water through continually.
But what's a sluice?
That's the sluice.
Oh.
The gate
Why don't
is
they just
also
call
the
it water?
sluice. What?
Oh.
The sluice gate is also a sluice.
So,
The sluice,
when you
calling it
say
a
sluice gate, it's a gate, basically.
kind of, yeah.
Okay.
Sluice gate is
So-
more helpful than,
Yeah.
than just saying sluice.
The
Because
gate
sluice
gate
can also
or
describe
sluice.
like rinsing something.
I guess so. I didn't think of that.
So sluice gate is a rinse gate.
It's now you're thinking of a RuneScape.
Ah.
Anyway,
Actually,
I was
can
reading
I-
a little. Oh, okay.
Oh, okay. No. You go.
Fight.
I already had a topic.
I was reading a little bit about Fortnite and just kind of the developers behind it and stuff like that.
As they finally come up for air.
Pretty weird development history going on here, which probably explains why it took 1 billion years to make this game. But it's by People Can Fly, who made Painkiller, Bulletstorm, and Gears of War Judgment, and then Fortnite, I guess. And so basically they're kind of one of those studios that becomes like basically attached at the hip to another studio, which happens all the time. You can think of it like the HAL studio to Nintendo, basically. Like, so what happened is Epic Games actually acquired a majority share of People Can Fly, and then rebranded it as like Epic Games Poland or something like that.
Because that's such a
And-
great name.
Yeah, that's a horrible name.
Horrible name.
I
People
hate
Can Fly
when
was
video
a great
game
name.
studios do that, where they like take they just like rebrand it as like Blizzard North or like Unreal
BioWare
Epic
Montreal.
Games. Yeah, it's stupid. Anyway, so in 2015, they decided to actually split off again and become an independent studio, which I didn't know was a thing that a company could even do. But apparently, they must have figured
That's
out
what
how
just
to
happened
do
to
it.
Eidos.
Yeah, I guess that did just happen to them as well. But yep. So Epic Games Poland reverted to People Can Fly SPZOO. What the hell? That must be some kind of Poland thing. And I guess then they're. I mean, that's gotta just like completely trip up the development cycle of a game if you're like C level and like your ownership is just changing every couple of years like that. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's what made this game. That was probably definitely contributing factor.
I mean, you
to
want
why
to talk
this game
about
took
confusing?
forever.
They co-developed Bulletstorm with Epic to publish it under EA, but then they made a remastered version again to then publish under Gearbox.
Yes,
I don't know.
Bulletstorm is a funny game.
And
I liked their promo stuff a lot, like duty calls and things like that.
I mean, honestly, I actually really liked Bulletstorm. The plot and the
Wasn't
fact
bad.
that it's a part one of a series that will never finish pisses me off to no end. But like,
I found it
is
to be a missed opportunity.
yeah, well,
I mean, like gameplay wise, I wasn't into it.
I really liked the like weird combo kills and the environment kills. because
I felt they were
kills
underutilized. Basically,
they most definitely were. But like, there was some like weird shit that you could do.
Was that the one where you could control the bullets after you fired them?
No,
I'm thinking of
No,
something
I don't think
else.
so.
there was like Ebola that you could.
you're thinking of
that you could help.
Wanted, the video game
Really?
adaptation of the movie that was actually kind of fun
Hmm.
because you could curve bullets in a video game. You'd basically like hold down a button while you were aiming in a direction and then press another direction to make like
Right.
an arc line come out, and that'd be the direction it'd go in if you let go, like bubble shooter curve bullet thing.
Mhm.
For me, the
But,
issue the issue with not people can fly Bulletstorm for me was just that like they advertised as like you can do anything you want, you had 1 billion options in every combat scenario, look at these crazy things you can
No,
do.
it usually was about 7.
it was
and
a
most
really-
of them involved
it was
just
a-
shooting a guy.
Yeah, it was like a super straightforward shooter where every now and then there would be like a very, very, very obvious canned location where you could do a special execution on someone.
Oh god.
And the freedom felt low because instead of having a health system like Doom, it had a health system like Call of Duty, where like in 2 shots your screen was all red and you're like you're gonna die in a moment.
Yep.
So you had to hide a lot. I'm like, that's the opposite of the feeling this game advertises. Like Doom was everything that I thought Bulletstorm would be.
I still liked the environment skills. Like, I actually wish more developers would include that. Like, you know, punching a guy over a ledge or kicking a guy into like spikes and stuff like that. Like, I like that in Dying Light where you can actually get zombies to impale themselves and stuff like that. Like, that feels really good in a game to me because, yeah, it's not just bullets that can kill people here, and it's cool if you can actually do some like cool tricks to kill them off.
It's just
an
impossible to design.
It's super
Like, it
hard.
works in
Yeah.
the zombie games because you expect the AIs to be like completely brain dead already.
True.
And then improvise traps, like that kind of feels fun and makes sense, but that's the only context I've ever seen it get pulled off.
Or even like
reasonably
contextual
well.
execution animations and stuff like that
Yep.
can be so hard that whenever you see them in a game done well, it's usually a game that's otherwise kind of bad. Like Resident Evil
that's
6
true.
has amazing kill animations. There are like hundreds of them, it seems, and they're based on like what environmental thing is nearby or what you have in your spare hand and like what direction you're coming from. Like there's so many weird custom kill animations, but they're in Resident Evil 6.
Yeah.
Yeah, that game is hot garbage.
Are
Are you still playing that with Wings?
We did a couple missions. I've been really busy lately, but I
Yeah.
haven't really had a chance lately.
I saw a speedrun of Doom 2016 where they used the execution animations to do some really fun glitches. So if you ran up right next to a door and then there was a stunned enemy and you did the execution animation on them, it would allow you to just barely clip your hitbox on the other side of the door, and they were able to use it to like get past huge sections of the levels and stuff like that. Without actually getting the keys for it, and that was a really fun thing to watch, and I guess it kind of made me understand a little bit about like how that game is programmed, because if you've worked with like any sort of video game engine a little bit, you start to know how they're put together really well, and like in that moment I was just like, oh man, that's pretty embarrassing that happened.
So is it like a situation where you approach a monster, it's standing by the door, but you do a kill animation that sends you around it, but it just happens to push you through the door to the other side? So
Effectively,
when you kill the
yeah.
creature,
But it's
you're
even
on
less
the opposite
visually
side.
it's even less visually it makes less visual sense than that. Like, it literally just kind of, you clip like your left foot into the door, and then the game will just push you through to the other side because it doesn't want you to be stuck inside of things.
Yeah.
So it'll naturally like try to, and a lot of video games do this, and that's how a lot of like glitches happen, is if you get kind of partially stuck in something, it's very common to have some code that just like pushes you all the way through it so you don't get permanently trapped inside of it. And it's just the way that stuff works is that they basically tied the character's position to their animation, which makes a lot of sense. But if you make the animation suddenly be in a different spot than they were before, you can get like teleportation effects and weird glitches and stuff like that happening. I forgot what prompted that thought so much, but it was very funny to like think about it and see it in action.
I actually had a fun animation glitch in Prey where I found Michaela Ilyushin, and she's like wounded down on the ground, and I come to comfort her, and I go to get medicine and come back, and when I'm giving her the medicine, the animation starts for me to like crouch down to her where she's like laying against a pillar and stuff, and suddenly we all teleport 2 feet to the left inside of her reployer. So we're inside of her reployer during the cutscene, and like we're like going through the reployer physically, like the space that it should contain, but somehow the reployer isn't clipping through her and it's still somehow behind her, and it gives you like it gives you the impression that the entire around us is a single 2-dimensional image that's broadcast around us like a Five Nights at Freddy's game, because you become super aware of the idea that like video games render specific objects over each other regardless of their distance sometimes. So despite the reployer being closer, Ilyushin was being animated as being on a higher rendering layer because she's in a cutscene. So she was still on the top, like, Photoshop layer, essentially, while being so far away that she should be clipping through the reployer during the cutscene for the entire cutscene. It's like the equivalent of,
That's
like, when
funny. How do you even do that?
It was...
What is a reployer, by the way?
That's the joke.
Yeah.
That's the joke. That's even... So, my general chat on my Discord is literally, what is a reployer?
Yeah, I noticed that. And
So
I was like,
the visual effect was like the equivalent of like when a video game, you know how like in a shooter, your gun is not really your actual 3D model, but it's just a weird 3D model of a gun that levitates in front of the camera that's separate from your 3D shape, and it's really obvious when you play multiplayer shooters with people. The visual effect was the equivalent of like a game like Aliens Colonial Marines that let you walk too close to walls with that effect, and suddenly you could press individual buttons on a keypad with your gun because your gun looked like it was made to be the size of a tiny toy race car because it was shrinking in perspective because you get too close to walls with it. That was what was happening in Prey. The only weird problem I really remember in the entire game. Very good game. I beat it. It's great. That ending.
Apparently,
we can't talk about
the
reployer.
The reployer is such a weird concept in this game that there are whole articles that are written. I haven't played Prey yet. I do mean to sooner or later, but I'm just reading about it, and apparently like the story is that one of the artists made it as just like this filler thing, and then just started putting it inside of every single office because he liked the way it looked. Yeah. So it just started appearing everywhere, and then everybody else in the development team just started making jokes about it, and then it just became this like inside joke in the office. And then when you look at the game itself,
when you look at it, it basically looks like a catch-all office machine thing, where it doesn't. Yes. It looks almost like all of them, but not like any of them, and you can't really identify what it does. But if you don't look at it directly, you never question its presence.
Yeah, it looks like a photocopier printer scanner.
Yeah, they're great for platforming. Using them to like stack up because they're like big and boxy, and they're also really good for flinging at enemies because big and boxy and huge hitbox, so they just plow straight through enemies if you want to do that.
If you go through some of the obscure emails in the game and side notes and stuff like that, it becomes clear that nobody on the ship knows what they do either or who ordered them, and yet there's a waiting line to get one.
Even though they're like everywhere.
Oh my god, I work in an office, and let me tell you, that is so accurate of people being like, hey, we got new like mouse pads or something like that, and like nobody wants them, but then some people start getting them, and then suddenly everyone wants them. It's just nonsense what happens sometimes. Another funny point is that the reployer was apparently cut from the game multiple times before, and they just kept putting it back in.
Well, apparently the artist that made it had to actually fight with one of the like directors or producers, like actually almost not like lost his job, but they were like actually angry at each other because he was fighting so hard for this useless thing. And
now it's a meme, and everyone loves it.
Yeah, honestly, it's actually one of the most memorable things about the game.
I found Igwe's email. Dr. Thorsten, I just wanted to write you personally and thank you for the new reployer. I hope some people have... I know some people have been on the waiting list to get one of these, and it was a pleasant surprise to find a new one in my office this morning. It is this feeling of gratitude that makes it awkward for me to trouble you further. However, if you could spare one of your engineers for a bit, it would be great if they could swing by and show me exactly what it does. The best joke in the game.
Oh my god, there's actually a Bethesda article specifically on the Reployer.
You know what would have made it really perfect is if like they, for the original release of the game, they gave away like a physical Reployer and a manual associated with it to one person.
You know what's really funny? If you fire up on Steam, you can actually look at the manuals that are associated with games, and it's like a really obscure thing because modern digital games don't come with manuals, and you don't think like to look at those.
You have a tutorial now.
Yeah, you have a tutorial.
They often do in the games, just don't tell you.
Yeah, but then what's really interesting is that a lot of games actually do contain manuals, and some of them are amazing. Like the the Team Fortress 2 manual is literally a like instructional pamphlet on how to use it's like a fake pamphlet on how to assemble a Team Fortress 2 turret and like the dangers associated with them and stuff like that. That's great.
I remember the big booklets for Knights of the Old Republic and a couple other games had like character bios and interesting like lore tidbits and whatnot, maybe even some extra art.
Manuals used to be one of the best parts of playing like a really good video game.
Yeah, Metal Gear Solid 1, you actually needed the manual for like codecs.
Oh yeah.
Oh, was it like a cipher
that was
or something?
annoying.
Well, there was a whole era
DRM.
of video games, where manuals were DRM. They would have information in them that was required to play the game.
So I got a D&D game, like one of those old like D&D adventure CDs, and
really,
yeah. But it came with a cipher that routinely you had to use the cipher to
do stuff
solve
in the game.
a thing. But the very beginning of the game, you had to do the longest cipher as kind of a tutorial, but also to make sure that you actually legally own the game, because each cipher apparently was printed differently.
Oh.
And so if you didn't have the correct cipher, and I didn't, you
were
boned, because I got it from my uncle, who's like, yeah, you can have it. I've never played this again. So I like threw it onto the laptop and tried playing it, and it's like, that's the incorrect cipher code. And like, I got my dad and a couple other people, and then my uncle's like, oh yeah, I remember I don't play that. I bought it secondhand, and apparently that cipher goes with this game. So he gives me a different game. Didn't work for that one either. And I was just like, I give up. It's not worth it. I'll go back to Baldur's Gate where it doesn't have this problem.
What sucks about that kind of DRM is it has to be like manually packaged and everything. So like, someone could just screw up, and then that person has a bad product. Yeah, I think about how like my copy of Mass Effect 2 came with 2 Cerberus network cards.
Yeah,
did somebody else
have to
not
call
get
up
one?
the developer and be like, "Hey guys, my thing doesn't work," and most of those video game companies went out of business after like 6 months, so the hotlines would die.
And you were just become like you were just screwed forever.
Oh well, I mean, think about it, on the plus side, a lot of those like old hint hotlines and all those old video game hotlines. If you call them now, you get phone sex hotlines. So silver lining.
Does everyone have a story of like a most like amusing, weird, like manual pack-in type weird game thing that isn't DRM?
Not DRM. I have a bunch that are DRM.
Just a really weird one, at least, as opposed to literally just being a codex or like a thing. Look at this to beat the game, because we don't trust you as consumers.
There was some weird DRM though, man. Like I remember there was this one. It was a Disney game. And they gave you this, there was like this page of codes, and they gave you a filter that was like a decoder thing.
Oh, it was like a thing with a red piece of plastic in there?
Exactly. Because what people used to do is they would just take pictures of the manual page with all the codes and then just mail it off to people or put it on the internet. So then you needed a physical, like, sheet of plastic to hold over the code page, and it would reveal the codes to you and decipher it.
You know what was awesome? Okay, so when I was little, I think that we probably played this on the Windows like 98 or something, maybe a little bit later. But it was 3D Dinosaur Adventure. Okay. And it was just a PC game that was educational, I would say. You would go to different parts of what essentially looked like a different kind of Jurassic Park, and they would have exhibits, and you'd be able to see dinosaurs and stuff. And you actually they packaged it with the blue and the red kind of 3D glasses because much of the game was visible in 3D. And I don't know if there was a non-3D mode for it. Maybe there was. But
maybe.
But they had a lot of like stop motion animation footage and 3D animation and a bunch of things just explaining about these are the type of dinosaurs. They lived here and blah, did that. And yeah, putting on the glasses, then suddenly, wow, it's 3D. And
was it that blue and red bullshit 3D? Oh, God.
Yeah, it was that. So if you took your glasses off while you were playing the game, it just all looked like a fuzzy mess, and it was
looked
terrible.
like a fuzzy mess when you had the glasses on.
No, it was pretty good, but it was a little weird.
I just remember seeing I saw Spy Kids 3 in theaters with red and blue glasses, and I'm like,
oh God!
All I could think was like, I guess this makes it gray. Like it didn't really make it 3D. It just made it like kind of nauseating. It looked like I was having a stroke.
With your 3D glasses that actually work. What the hell, man? What the hell? In my day, it was just like there was the Virtual Boy. And, like that was considered that was considered a piece of crap. Nobody liked it even back then.
Now that's interesting. So the 3DS has a means to make a quote unquote 3D game.
Works really well too.
Yeah.
If you hold it perfectly in the right spot and train your eyes to kind of zone out slightly in the perfect way, and it feels so weird at first. At first, but then you get used to it and it's amazing. Yeah. I've only experienced the 3D and a 3DS in the context of like when I worked at Best Buy, the product was launching, so I would go to the demo every now and then and be like, I
have pretty bad astigmatism.
So it doesn't work for you no matter what you do?
No matter what it is. It never looks 3D unless I've got it like a couple of inches from my face, at which point I get a terrible migraine. So the whole 3DS setup is just like so useless.
That sucks. Because the effect is actually really awesome. It really does work well.
It's neat, although sometimes it immediately becomes slightly iffy with the moment you're looking back and forth between the two screens and only one of them's 3D.
Yeah,
that's a strange feeling depending on how they're used from game to game. For me, when I was talking about the pack-ins, like the weird one that comes to mind for me is just that like the game Heavy Rain was a game about the villain of that was this enigmatic like figure, this origami killer. So the cover had a origami crane with a little bloody corner on it in the rain on the cover. The game took like half an hour to install on the PlayStation 3. So the game came with a textured piece of like postcard paper with like a grid on it.
Origami.
And it was textured like the one on the cover. And the loading screen while it was installing the game was teaching you how to fold the origami crane.
Oh, that's cute.
I remember another. I was kind of on the. Oh yeah. Go for a
I was going to say I was kind of on the opposite side of the whole DRM thing, where my dad. I mean, my parents are cheap. I've said this a billion times. So I had a ton of shareware games.
Oh, yeah. But you never had the full editions.
I never had the full edition, so I was actually usually at the mercy of the weird DRM sometime. So like, oftentimes there were games where, I don't remember one. There was one where you had to fight a boss, and normally the boss only has like a certain amount of HP, but in the shareware version, the boss was invincible. You would do damage to him, but there was no health bar, and so we could just never kill him. So I got really good at fighting him, and a couple of years later, as like a kind of one-off video for YouTube, I played the remake, and
you just flattened him,
powered through it.
Yeah. Like muscle memoried straight through the entire boss fight, and I was so confused. I was like, wait, what? And then I looked it up, and it's like, oh, it wasn't because I sucked as a kid, it was because that was the end of the tutorial. Because as soon as you died in the game, it would be like, alright, thanks for playing. Buy the full game.
So they couldn't even give you that little shred of, you were victorious, now buy the game for this.
They wanted to make you mad, so you buy the game.
Yeah. Which was super clever.
More like it would make you so frustrated with it, you're wondering if you actually had the chops to play it.
Yep.
And would never get it.
I was a little lucky from an entertainment budget perspective as a kid because my brother was a huge pain in the ass. So just to make him stop for a while, we would get more entertainment things. And so I was just like benefiting on the side from that. Like we would just always have like a few more video games to go through and stuff like that just because they needed to work. And my brother would just raise such a stink being just the littlest shit as a kid.
So, you know Phantasy Star Online, of course. You kind of remember when that came out, right?
We did local multiplayer GameCube Phantasy Star Online.
That's what I would do. It was
the
amazing.
version you can cheat with.
Split screen.
But so
you get even so you have a total of 100 pixels vertical.
Yep. So I picked that up as soon as it came out on GameCube. Because I played it on the Dreamcast when my friend had it, and it was amazing. And I played the crap out of it for years. And for the most part, I just never bought any other games because I was kind of poor. But, you know, as I started getting into middle school and high school, I started getting an actual allowance so I could afford things. And my parents would let us rent games from Blockbuster, but they'd almost never let us buy anything. And so, like, 2 years down the line... or 3 years down the line, after I've beaten everything that Phantasy Star Online has to offer us, I was, like, looking into getting a new game, and it was, like, Dynasty Warriors or something. And my mother's like, you already have enough games. Just go back and play some more of that Phantasy Star Online game that you were so, like, bananas about. Like, why should I get you another game? And I'm like, this isn't like,
that.
Monopoly. That's not how it
Nobody
works.
would tell you, like, hey, I don't want to buy you a new book. Go read that other book again.
Yeah, like the whole parents thing of not understanding video games where they expect you to play the same games over and over again forever, and they also expect you to, like, the moment you stop playing a game, they just figure they can just throw it away or sell it or something, and it's like, no, my library. It's like,
At least my
just
parents
throw away all the movies you didn't watch this year. Like, that's how they treat it. That's literally how they treat all of our video games. Like, I had so many consoles growing up that are just dust. They're just gone now, and I have to reacquire them secondhand if I want to play Mischief Makers again.
Why would you want to play Mischief Makers again?
You shut your whore mouth. I got a 64, and I got my Mischief Makers, and I got it.
It's like, can you even tell what's going on in that game? I can't. Even as a kid, I looked at it. It was like, oh, I was thinking
everything
of something else.
has a face.
Okay,
every floor, every
Mischief
wall.
Makers is an awesome game.
Everything in that game has a face.
I was, for whatever reason, I was thinking of Nights into Dreams.
You play as a woman whose primary skill is throwing stuff, so to the point where her platforming is she grabs stuff and throw herself by throwing it so hard, but the thing is immobile, so it throws her.
What?
Oh no!
Mischief Makers is full bonkers.
We can podcast the Mischief
play
Makers
as a robot maid for some reason.
It's a weird game.
It has the worst music ever.
It was one of those like weird N64 games that was like kind of before its time, but also like insane.
It was one of the first 2.5D games that I can remember being like really successful too.
Shake.
And
I remember
yes, the
seeing
main
it at
character kept saying
Blockbuster constantly.
Shake.
Shake. I mean, the first boss fight against the dragon is
like,
badass.
Yeah, you showed that to me years ago.
Catch his hands when he tries to punch you and throw his hands back at his face. He's like fully articulated and animated and shit in a way that seems impossible for a 64 game.
Wait, this is a Treasure game?
He had facial expressions. It's a boss fight with facial expressions on the Nintendo 64.
Mischief Makers was made by Treasure, the people who made Wario World, Gunstar Heroes, Ikaruga, like
AKA
all those
the best
games. Yeah,
this is the same company we like rediscovered during our EDF playthrough. Where we're talking about, wow, they made all the best things. Apparently, weird.
I know, these are awesome.
Radiant Silvergun, Bangai O.
I don't know what the hell those are.
Bleach. Ew, they make Bleach games now.
Yeah, then you scroll down, it's like Astro Boy, Bleach, and McDonald's games, and you're like, oh.
Yeah, well, I think they were one of those companies that thrived for a very short period of time, and then probably got bought out or like pushed into nothing but tie-in games.
Oh crap!
Probably,
I remember this. So there's a Bleach game I own because somebody thought I was a fan of it. Because
you're not
the
a fan
name
of
the
it?
game is the name of the game is Bleach Dark Souls. That's a real video game that came out in 2008. Or at least for us it did.
That's the thing.
So funny.
Side-scrolling beat-em-up DS game called Bleach Dark Souls.
I mean, that's...
So we can when can we expect a playthrough of that on your channel, Keith?
Right after I get a Game Boy Advance or a DS that I can play on the internet.
I mean, you could just emulate it.
That's
at
the
this
problem,
point.
though.
I've never emulated a
without-
game yet, and it feels wrong for some reason.
Without like a
For Let's Play.
completely unique made-up word for your title, isn't it possible for like other like authors or game makers and whatnot to? Because I mean, how many things out there must be called like Shadow something or the Dark whatever? Not those literally, but you know what I'm getting at.
That's usually just not the important part of the trademark.
Mm-hmm.
Like
But
in that game, the trademarked thing is Bleach, and Dark Souls is just some dumb subtitle they threw on it years
Right.
before anything was ever called Dark Souls, because Dark Souls came out 3 years later.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so but it's just funny how people are thinking, oh, you know, is that a reference to Dark Souls? No, that was before Dark Souls.
Yeah.
Okay.
Things get
That said, if they
problematic
were to
when they
make,
start dealing
like,
with
a-
ZeniMax because they're pricks, and so they try to sue over things like the fact that they're like what an indie game had to
Prey.
change their an indie game had to change their
Oh.
name to like Prey to the gods, but and they changed the spelling of Prey to Praey because they were getting sued by the makers of ZeniMax over Prey. Then you have like the trading card game Scrolls was getting sued because of Elder
the same
Scrolls, and it's
company.
like, well, it's your fault for having such a generic ass name for your fantasy universe. You can't trademark the concept of scrolls, but they did.
Really?
Yeah.
So just
Oh, yeah.
because something was called Scrolls, it's like, no, it's
Technically,
gonna be called...
they don't have a legal footing for most of these
Right.
things,
But they
it
still
would be
try.
so
They
just
expensive.
try.
Well,
Yeah.
no,
the Banner
they-
Saga got sued by Candy Crush Saga because that company wanted to own the word saga, and they were ironically suing Banner Saga, which was a Norse saga, the definition of the word saga.
Now would
I hate it.
Would World of Warcraft, StarCraft, whatever, would they have any grounds to potentially attack someone for doing like Magecraft?
Minecraft?
Or something. Minecraft? Oh yeah, Minecraft. Yeah.
They
Did anything
could,
ever happen?
They could probably.
That? No.
No.
They could
Because
probably
it's stupid,
try.
and Blizzard's not as stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, also, it's not like they have Diablo Craft and Hearthcraft or something.
just certain
It's not like they
lawyers-
had everything.
There's
that
just
was
lawyers
craft.
that work for ZeniMax and Nintendo that are basically just pricks.
Mhm.
And they just they overreach because they're like, I don't know, what are we gonna do today? We better go suing things. And they're way too aggressive by like whenever somebody that knows anything about the field talks about the behavior of those companies, they usually talk about them as just being like way out of bounds with their behavior.
Yep.
Hey, on the other hand, what if they win one day? Then they're in good shape.
They'll sure crush that tiny company that didn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's always
And then they'll
some
have
tiny
like a
company doing
monopoly on a
nothing.
word.
Yeah.
People won't be able to put scrolls in their book. You know,
It'll just be
Yeah.
parchment for the end of times.
I mean, honestly,
Finnegan extracted a scroll
I don't-
from his pack.
There'll be a resurgence
No,
of the
you
word
can't have
papyrus.
stuff.
I actually don't think they would be able to win. Period, because I don't think any.
No.
No
No
I don't
jury.
think any jury or
I don't think there's a
or
jury in
judge.
those kinds of cases.
Yeah, usually it's well, yeah,
Really?
usually, yeah. If it's a civil court, then it's usually a judge. Juries are more for
I feel
For
like
a
juries
criminal.
usually come down to like
Huh.
somebody wronging
Yeah.
someone or killing someone, basically.
yeah. Usually this goes.
It's a
this
hassle
goes
to
in,
get a jury together.
yeah, and
Oh
then
yeah.
keep them there.
Juries are impossible
I forgot that
because you get
word
people like me who will do anything and everything to get out of them.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, hey, that reminds me. I wonder when I'm ever gonna get like summoned.
Did you
Never.
ever update your address when you moved?
Yeah. As soon as she got here, she got like a jury duty
It
thing.
was because we had registered to vote here,
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
so I hadn't even been here
Well, that's
for
what
half a
they
year.
pull it from the voter
and-
rolls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have
If you
never
type the
even
word
once.
papyrus, you are more likely to get pictures of a buff skeleton with weird amounts of muscle than you are to get pictures of actual papyrus.
Yep.
Papyrus isn't buff.
Some of these
The bacon
drawings
buff.
are.
Yeah.
But
All right,
Weren't-
Papyrus swole.
weren't
Let's look at
weren't the
this.
two of them
Papyrus swole.
based off of like sans serif and like papyrus
and Comic
fonts.
Sans. Comic
That was
Sans,
the joke.
the papyrus font. Yeah, that was the joke. So part of it is also like no judge would want to award them that, but the reason why, even though they'd lose the lawsuit, probably the other company would fold because
they can't afford legal fees.
Yeah, and they can't afford to not have a lawyer because then they just lose by default. Generally, when it goes to like mediation or whatever, which is worse. You
guys can deal with these images in the Discord.
Yeah, weren't we talking about this before? Where we had been looking up. I had been looking up like an article about authors and what they think of like fan fiction and stuff, because people had actually been asking about like writing fan fiction for the D&D campaign.
Not allowed. Greg is an original character. I own Greg. If I see a single fan fiction, if I see a single fan fiction or fan art of Greg that has not been explicitly cleared by me with my written consent and the NFL's written consent for good measure on top of that.
You made the Greg persona. I made the Greg character. The Bugbear Paladin is my creation.
We have disputes now. IP law. Let's break out the lawyers.
But I made Greg art. What to do?
No.
I'm gonna have to sue you for creating.
It's like Oculus Rift all over again.
So, if anything, I need to license it from you two.
So the thing about it was, I was thinking,
it's like the Black Mirror episode.
I should look into
what the fuck
this.
Are these pictures?
Wait, what?
I gotta see this. What is going on?
I regret nothing.
Oh,
I regret
about the Greg
a lot.
with swimmies?
That's
Didn't
fine.
someone do a fan art of Greg
your
with
regrets
swimmies?
don't transfer to me.
A buff Yoda?
Buff Yoda, why?
Okay. In any case, so I was looking it up because I'm like, I'm in the process of writing a story, and occasionally I do concept art of my characters, and people are already wanting to like make fan art of my characters, and I'm just like, I should probably write like a little thing on my profile about stuff like that. And I was looking it up, and apparently there was a lady who loved fan fiction of her stories. Like, she had written like numerous novels and stuff, and was pretty well known in the romance or sci fantasy community. I don't know, I forget precisely what her name was or what her series was, but it was to the point where she actually edited her own magazine dedicated to fans that wrote fan fiction, and because she was like really pro fan fiction, saying that she had her roots in fan fiction, and it prompted her to write her own unique story, so then she could actually do something with it. So a lot of people are like, oh yeah, fan fiction is good because it allows you to like work with someone else's world and characters, and then later on you can do your own thing. And then there are people that are like, no, you should like, definitely, start with your own thing, because why put so much effort into something that can never truly be yours? And I mean, that's a position I took eventually, because it's like, like fan art gets eyes on your art, but if you can make something that's truly yours and unique and it can become something, then
I've heard from some people that making fan art and fan fiction is really nice because the established world gives them a lot of scaffolding to build their stories off of. World building is tough, and it's like
I'm
not
still
easy
world
to work
building
with.
my world, and it's gonna take a while.
So if you just want to practice your writing skills, fan fiction's actually like rather good.
Right. So let me get to the issue.
Oh, okay.
So then this lady was writing a new novel, and she was going to publish it, but this other girl, who was actually one of the fan fiction writers for her like magazine, or had some work featured in there, sort of like, I don't know how the script was like. I think what she was doing is she's like, oh yeah, I noticed that some of the things that happened in my book are similar to a fan fiction you wrote, but that's because you loved my story so much, like you actually guessed at something that I was going to write for the next segment of my story. So if it's similar, like I can give you credit for like some of the ideas, but really this was something that I was going to write myself. And the other girl's like, no, it's sure, it was my fan fiction, but now you're claiming it's yours. It's completely mine, kind of thing. But it's like, it's something that the fan fiction writer based off
That's
of the
why
other
you
girls'
gotta
universe.
cover your base with legal
fan
stuff.
fiction of the fan fiction of the fan fiction.
So this lady couldn't release this book that she had either like half written or fully written and was going to make the next segment of her like story because
Her publisher wasn't comfortable with it.
well, yeah,
Oh,
and
wow.
one of her fan fiction writers had guessed at something that would have. So that's why I think there was one of the people that had addressed this. She herself was a writer. She'd actually like sent scripts to the X-Files because she's like, I love the X-Files so much. You know, I just wanted to make my own fan script for an episode. And the X-Files people sent her back her envelope completely unopened. And they mailed it with a little disclaimer saying, you know, we can't open these because if there's any indication that we read your script, you could sue us later if an episode happens to resemble anything like yours. So we're just putting it out there, you know.
I'm actually getting people sending me ideas for D&D campaigns, and I'm intentionally like not reading them because I'm like,
because you don't want
I'm not comfortable
to sneak
with this.
in.
Yeah. One person's like, I've got an idea for your next campaign. You should do this, this, and this. And the moment I saw that, I just closed Discord, and I'm going to wait until it comes back. I should probably put a disclaimer in one of the videos being like, please don't send me ideas. I can't imagine this is ever going to be a problem.
Item ideas, but
well, I already asked for those.
That was a sanctioned thing, yeah.
Yeah, that was a sanctioned thing, and nobody could go after me being like, hey, you took my idea when, like, I actively was, like, requesting it. I was like, hey, by the way, like, you know, give me items, and in giving me items, intrinsically, they probably would lose their right to exclusive
so
usage.
it just makes me, like, frightened. There were actually people asking if they could make, like, fan OCs or give me suggestions for my story, even though I've literally only been world building and creating character concepts and stuff, and most of my notes aren't, like, open to the public and everything, and it's just like, you know, I don't really feel comfortable with it because I don't want to be influenced, even subconsciously. And there are these instances where people can come back and claim something as theirs. It's just,
Yeah, that kind of controversy happened with Left 4 Dead 2 when they added new enemies, and then people could point back to like an old forum post where some people like made up those exact enemy concepts down to like weird details on the forums already. And Valve
was it like
denies
generic
having taken them
names
from
too
there.
that were attributed to them, or was it just the concepts
know.
themselves?
I think it was
like
just the
names,
concepts.
visual concepts, mechanical concepts, like how they would work, and like and a lot of them were really similar supposedly.
So were they wanting a cut? What was their
I
beef with?
don't really know what they were going for, but that was just a stink that was risen at some point. Was this idea that maybe Valve stole ideas from its own audience or something, but Valve just claims they didn't happen to even really read those, and it's just in the giant cloud of posts. And frankly, there's only so many ideas you can come up with for like special enemy variants in the Left 4 Dead games anyway, so like it just seems like it could easily happen.
I think the issue specifically was the spitter, the like weird lady that would spit like pools of acid.
Yeah.
I want to say it was either that one or the charger that were like the main ones. And it's like, those are fairly obvious concepts if you think about it. Like, I don't know. I can't.
I mean, the charger is literally the most generic type of special enemy in video games. A thing that charges at you in a straight line, you have to dodge out of the way. Like and then maybe it hits a wall and stuns itself. Is like how it works in every game.
I do that constantly. That's how bulls work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how
It's
bulls
literally
work.
just real life.
Yeah. Yeah, one of the very
real-life
first things that if I ever do release any sort of software project, before I do a damn thing, the first thing I'm going to do is go to an attorney and get something like on paper. It's going to be really expensive, but whatever. I got to get like an attorney to at least give me like a templated, like, here's like a generic like end use and license agreement. Go on, you know, just cover your bases.
Yeah, a EULA
sucks.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Because
that's a big reason why. Another reason why I'm not releasing the auto uploader thing is because I would need a EULA before I could do it, and that's expensive, man. Getting a EULA is like $3,000 to $5,000.
Also, like, your auto uploader has already failed on you a couple of times, so it's like, don't want to release that to public.
Well, yeah, that's also another part of it, is because it has bugs, and I don't want to find out from other people that are using it.
You don't have to fix them for other people. Yeah, fix them for yourself. That's it.
Yeah, and the other thing too is, I mean, there are like copyright protections for like artwork and other things, like by posting them online and stuff. But the problem is, like, you can't stop people from China from ripping images and then trying to print them on things.
Oh, actually, that's a whole nother can of worms.
Did you see the game dev post about some guy who had all of his like kind of promo assets flipped, turned into an app on a mobile store?
Oh, they made it into a mobile game. Yeah, that's the thing.
No,
people
they didn't.
People have had their characters taken from online and shrunk down into like characters for mobile games.
So back up a bit. They didn't make it into a mobile game.
Okay.
They took all the assets. So the like promo art, like the screenshots and whatnot, the loading screen, bunch of stuff like that.
Okay.
And they put it up on the game store, but what would happen is you'd get to the first loading screen and then it would freeze. But, you know, at this point they've already got several advertisements and like maybe some like kind of premium buy or whatever stuff.
Wouldn't they get sued for not actually delivering a product though?
But it's a foreign company, so
yeah. Can't sue them.
It's hard to sue that.
Mm-hmm.
So the developer more or less posted on game dev like, help, and everybody's just like, just report them, good luck. Like,
yeah,
there was surprisingly little useful information. I was just like, damn, that is.
Well, I mean, if another government isn't going to help you, then you're screwed.
There's also been an issue too with you know how enamel pins are a huge thing now. Everyone loves
those.
Dude, they're like these. People make cute cartoony or like sort of like symbolic things, and you can have them printed in metal and with like colored enamel laid on the inside. So it's sort of like you know, with Pokemon trading cards, there are those packages with a nice pin of a Pokemon with like
I have a
the metallic
Starbomb
lines
pin. That's like that.
Yeah. So
you do.
Yeah, I do have one of those.
Yeah, so there are these pins, and they're such a huge thing now, but it's expensive to produce. Like, usually you have to sell these pins for $10 a piece. But because they're so, like, niche, now all of these big name department stores are starting to get creative teams to exclusively make pins for their lines. But there have been so many artists that have, like, Etsy shops and things. And these companies will buy a sample of their pin, copy it down to a T, and then have it printed and distributed in places like Target or who knows where.
That's rough.
And sometimes they don't copy it exactly. Maybe they change the color or they vector over it in a different manner, but it's still the same thing. And it's just like, ugh. And I mean,
that's a really good idea. I'm going to do that.
I mean, what they can do is actually sue Target. The problem is Target has
so much more money.
Yeah, so like the poor artist more or less would be, you'd have to get a lawyer that would work on contingency. It's why Sears for a while was stealing like more or less
prints. Sometimes they have like certain prints or patterns for cloth or whatever. But what were they stealing?
So not Target. Sears would steal tools from inventors.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
And they would steal tools from inventors and then absolutely refuse to pay out effectively, even when like it was very clearly like an idea that somebody had maybe even presented to them years before, and they said, "No, we don't want that. You know, go away." And then they just steal it and just keep it for themselves.
I have to give up. I actually was spending this entire time trying to research the Charger and the guy who claiming to be the creator and stuff, and like it's so old that it's just not the kind, like video game news is not archived. Like it just disappears forever.
No, that's true.
And every existing article just links the thread directly without actually quoting it or screenshotting it.
How big is the thread?
Well, it's from the old build of the Steam forum, so the link doesn't work anymore.
Yeah.
It just takes you to the domain.
I see.
So like you can't
now the
find
Steam
it
forums. Yeah, now the Steam forum is completely different.
Weird, because you can just look up news from like 15 years ago for other stuff, and it just works. But video game journalism sucks.
You can look up news from like 300 years ago.
Video game journalism's garbage.
Yep.
Did I mention the whole like Mauer game artist more or less taking down a bunch of YouTube videos thing to you guys on the podcast? Or no?
No, but you've told me about, like...
I think I mentioned it
so many stories about YouTube videos getting taken down lately that I don't know which one this one might be.
There's a, I guess, yeah, I think this happened during one of our, like, kind of podcast breaks where we were doing, like, other stuff, and I couldn't talk about this. But so Alex Maurer is a game music composer. Was kind of famous for her, like, chiptunesy art, which all fine and good. But she was doing the soundtrack for Star Mazer, Death Road to Canada, and a couple other things. And in a recent, I guess, I don't know, I'd say a fit of madness, because it just is like a weird, messed up situation. But effectively, she decided, I didn't get paid enough, so I'm going to demand extra money from them, or like from the developers for my work, or I'm gonna DMCA take down the game from Steam. And the developers like, we paid you like a lot of money already for this. Like, no, go away.
Something about this screams breach of contract.
It does,
and it's unprofessional behavior that ruins your career.
Yes, and as far as I can tell, that's kind of what's going to happen. But
and
so
supposedly it's like really hitting a lot of small YouTubers hard.
Let me keep going. Okay. So she DMCA takedown. She used the takedown thing from Steam. She took down Star Mazer DSP from Steam. And Steam put it back up, being like, no. Like,
well, then why did it go down in the first place?
Well,
because they're automated.
Because Steam doesn't bother looking at things, even when it's as important as a game being taken down.
I think it's called like Safe Harbor. It's a thing about DMCA takedowns, which is why it's why YouTube has its weird DMCA. Is
it the guilty till proven innocent kind of format?
So
okay.
YouTube,
also known as
YouTube,
Justice,
Steam, yeah, YouTube, Steam, and a number of these other places will take a video down first, because if they don't do so, they lose, like, generally people can't sue YouTube because their content's there. They have to use the built-in takedown system first. And if YouTube did it in the reverse, then you'd have to sue YouTube to get the content taken down. And YouTube really doesn't want that. So, like, it makes total sense, but, like, in Steam's case, they took it down for, like, a day, and they're like, oh, wait a second, no, this isn't right. You know, when a human actually put eyeballs on it, which is insane for Steam, honestly.
Yeah, I didn't know people even worked at Valve anymore. I thought they were just entirely made of, like, top-notch smoothies.
Somebody has to show up and then shovel all the money off the floor, and then go home.
What percentage of their employees do you think are beanbags?
I mean, are they Gabe Newell-shaped beanbags? Because the answer is 90%.
Oh god, everyone gets a Gabe Newell flesh bag to sit on.
No, flesh bag. Oh.
No, just be like a weird, like, pink thing. Like,
like really comfortable.
Flesh colored, but with a Gabe Newell head on the end.
Yeah. Really comfortable, but also incredibly weird. But yeah, so she took down Star Mazer DSP for a little while. And when that didn't work, her immediate reaction to that was to start DMCA takedowning every single YouTube video on Star Mazer DSP, saying, you know, it's using our copyrighted content, and saying that she would revert the takedown notices, the copyright strikes, if they would actually speak out on her behalf, you know, condemning the company for not paying her enough.
Oh, wait, so she was trying to bribe the YouTubers?
She was trying to extort the YouTubers, yes.
This is some, like, digital homicide level of, like, unethical behavior.
It is.
Oh, it was honestly very unethical.
Holy it was super unethical. And it's still going on, actually.
So she just wants to ruin her reputation with as many people as fast as possible.
So what happened is, there's more to this. So she took down River City Rampage next, because she was she did the trailer music for it.
The game that came out like 5 years ago?
From Steam. Yeah. So she went after that, and she started going for the Let's Plays. But another interesting thing about Steam's copyright strikes, they've actually softened it up. So you don't get it on a per-video basis. You just go one copyright strike per batch of copyright violations that you do, which I actually think is better. So, like, if a company decides to try and take you down, they have to wait a substantial amount of time before they can hit you with several strikes, which I think is probably good. I don't know. But, so what she found out is apparently if you take back your DMCA takedowns and then reinstate them, that's a second strike. So
yeah,
so she's
What
doubling
the
up on
fuck?
hers
Wow.
to threaten these YouTubers even more.
Isn't it 3 strikes you're out?
Yeah, three strikes and your channel just disappears. You can get it back, but it is such a nightmarish situation that most people never do.
Oh my god.
Jesus.
Yeah.
It was actually
Whoa.
funny. I've been reading a story, but it had a happy ending for the person writing it. They had purchased a license to use music made by a music company. I suppose there are companies that allow you just to purchase licenses for various tracks to use in your videos. So he did that, and
Interesting.
like
Okay.
Korean or Chinese company decided to do a whatever you guys call it.
DMCA.
DMCA takedown for the video, saying that it was music that they used in their trailer or that it was their music. So he finally does research. It turns out that it was used in a soap opera trailer in Korea, and that they had used a version that was highly edited. So, in fact, they were the ones that had stolen the music and repurposed it for their television show. So the YouTuber went to the company that he had purchased the license from. He's like, oh yeah, and these people over here are after my video, but they are using that music that was heavily altered, like, in their thing. And the company's like, oh.
Huh.
And the Korean, like, the Korean soap opera
Shit's
people,
shitty.
like,
Jeez.
they stopped their strike against the guy, and they're like, we're so sorry, and supposedly they're in a big bunch of legal trouble with the company that actually licensed out the music, because not only did they take the music for their own their soap opera, but they had heavily edited it and everything, and were going after random people that had legally purchased licenses for the music company's music.
All right, guys, I'm afraid I'm going to have to duck out early. Something just came up, but have a good rest of the podcast and enjoy talking more about DMCA things.
Yeah.
And Jar Jar Pecs.
Jar Jar? Oh no, is there another one?
I may have been posting things in the Discord, including the best C-3PO tape dispenser invented by mankind.
My God.
Tape dispenser? That can't be good.
Oh. Yeah, that's special. See it.
Google
See it,
image
bird.
search is a magical place.
Oh, I've seen
Goodbye.
the drawing.
The buttons?
I've seen those buttons before at a convention. I've almost bought one actually.
You almost bought a Jar
It
Jar.
tells
I
a
was
story.
I was tempted. Yeah, it was at
they're-
Anime Boston that one year you didn't go with me, and I was tempted
Yeah.
to buy one and give it to you just to make you uncomfortable.
They're straight up
me?
souvenirs of like sad buff Jar Jars. Jar Jar with giant pecs, like a Captain America comic book cover, but looking down and crying. And they're
Right.
buttons that someone's selling for $3. And I'm like, what?
It's sort of embarrassing,
This tells a
but
story.
when I was a kid and we watched episode 1, I actually really liked Jar Jar Binks and had like the action figures
Because you
with
were a kid.
like Obi-Wan and Quinlan. Wait, well, not Quinlan. Sorry, Qui-Gon. Huh?
I still wanted to finish the Mauer thing,
Oh,
seeing as I never
sorry.
actually got to the section that related to why I brought it up. But
And now
Okay.
Bert will never
Sorry.
know because he doesn't watch these.
no, he doesn't. But so the reason why I brought it up, you had mentioned games media being weird. This is also a means of getting back on topic and away from Buff Jar Jar. But so the thing that I found, I guess, most annoying about this situation, because like normally it'll just kind of resolve itself and like it's shitty, but it should be okay. But what pissed me off was a bunch of games media people were like writing articles on this based on like maybe doing half an hour of research, if even.
So they were taking the side of.
They were like actively saying that these like YouTubers had attacked her first, or like various other things, or like some of them were insane. Like,
Can you be gone after for like defamation by talking about this?
so you can only sue somebody for
slander?
defamation if it's false. For example, if I said that Keith is tall as fuck and that's not okay, he couldn't sue me because he's tall as fuck and that's not okay.
How tall is Keith?
I think Keith is what, 6'2"?
No,
Sorry.
I'm literally just normal ass 6 feet
6
tall.
feet?
It's
Oh.
the most,
You're
it was the
taller than me, so I can't tell.
I am the boring tall, and that it's the very normal amount of tall for a tall person.
Yeah, see, I'm like
But-
2 inches.
We have this weird reoccurring thing, by the way, which is that Andrew keeps saying he's taller than me, and he means it, and he keeps thinking that. But we have video evidence over and over again in the past of me being significantly taller than him.
He's a small skeleton man. He has no ground. He has no ground to stand on there.
We had a whole thing where a joke was that I had to crouch to make our heads the same height in one of our videos so we could frame ourselves correctly. And in his head, he keeps thinking he's taller than me, and I don't know how it happens. Talk about libel or whatever.
I don't know.
There are some people that have bad posture, like this guy right over
I
here.
go down to by about 2 inches if I'm just standing around in like normal pose.
Whereas there are people like me who like deviate in size for no reason whatsoever. I swear,
it's entirely based on how long your giraffe neck wants to be on a given daily basis.
So like one doctor's office will say, "Oh, you're 5'4". Another one will say, "Oh, you're 5'2". I'm like, "What? That's 2 inches. What? This one lady's like, "Oh, maybe I'll make you, 5'3" in this because, And I'm just like,
but it's my brother that's like 6'4".
Okay.
And that's a problem. He hits his dad on doorways sometimes.
But I was kind of following this because, this is one of those things that, it's interesting. It's interesting to see YouTube drama that is actually, like, kind of got a legal backing for, like, reasonable drama. I guess it is, honestly, baseline unreasonable. But it was interesting seeing, like, a fairly well-reasoned, like, the No video on it, followed immediately later by, like, one of the other larger syndicates being like, these people didn't look into this at all. And, like, what? I don't know, it bugs me when I see, like, games media people that don't even, like, know what they're talking about, writing, like, 2-page articles on, like, the issue, and I'm just like, oh, please, no. This is how bad things happen. This is how
This is how gates are invented.
Yeah.
It's gonna be whatever Mauergate. What was it called? Mauergate.
Yeah, Mauergate.
Mauergate 2017. It shook
for this
the gaming
one's, like,
community.
This one's like resulting in an actual legal battle. Like it's already gone to court. And there are like so the reason why she went after River City Rampage was actually because there's a restraining order saying like you can't bug anybody else about this game until the legal battle is complete. And so she started going after all of the other games instead because
Wait, you can have a restraining order on a franchise or a series?
Yeah,
a gag order
saying,
basically.
Like, yeah, it's a gag order being like you can't do anything about this until this court battle's been resolved because it's too grave an area to allow you to have like full reign.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I wanted to talk about that on the podcast a little bit, seeing as it was going on. I don't want to get into it like some other YouTubers have, but it's fascinating watching these things happen. And I'm kind of looking at it with like some level of like expectation because maybe this legal battle will make it so YouTubers have some level of defense against developers just being like your channel annoys us. It is dead now.
A lot of issues with Japanese music videos popping up in various anime related video games and stuff.
Oh yeah, I can't half the time whenever there's like a JRPG, the intro is absolutely like not okay.
Square Enix, the intro to every Square Enix game nowadays is like a very, very like something that they had to license that cost money and is going to like take your video down.
Would it be like if an American game had Beyonce or someone singing?
Yeah, which never happens, basically.
Which never happens, right?
It's always some obscure indie band or like the equivalent of like... It's always the music's always like the equivalent of like the house theme where it's like they might be giants or something, but it's just like noise happening. It's like somebody had to put it together, but it's not like a K-pop song or something.
Right.
Yeah, like Final Fantasy 15 opens with "Stand By Me," and it's like a cover, but it's still a big enough deal of a cover to be something that'll take your whole video down. And Type 0 also featured a like big J-pop song that just destroys the video. And what's rough is oftentimes these songs are like considered to be kind of like the theme of the game. But
so do they pop up at various like cinematic moments and then suddenly
hopefully not.
it's the theme.
It has happened to me in the past.
In Type 0, they played the same song during the beginning intro cutscene that was just like an anime intro with credits and stuff like that, but then they played it again during the ending of the game, which I had to mute the entire ending.
By the way, seeing as you were talking about playing The Surge, turn off the music in The Surge.
God damn it.
So
I had to do that also in Let It
Surge?
Die. Let It Die had like a 100-song soundtrack from different like Japanese bands.
Okay, so there are a couple of workarounds. So the problem with The Surge is so there's like little safe zones. It's effectively the bonfire. Imagine if every time you sat down
with a radio that plays in the safe zone.
Yeah, so every time you'd sit down at the bonfire in Dark Souls, it'd start playing Stand By Me.
Jesus.
Yeah.
That'd be really funny if it was literally that.
That it would be absolutely hilarious.
High octane mech combat. Stand by me. Just out of nowhere.
So it was kind of frustrating. Turns out you can actually put in your own music into the lobbies, which is what I ended up doing. I was like, okay, I'm just going to replace this with a Castlevania remix, which everybody hated. They're like, no, get rid of this. And I was like,
every
people are never happy.
Plays Bloody Tears.
Well, you have to make sure it's something that isn't.
Yeah, well, it was an OC
copyrightable or
remix,
something.
which is
OC, okay.
which is fair game.
OC, do not steal.
Yeah, but I don't know. That was an interesting and unfortunate realization. I was like, well, I guess I'm just going to remove this and be unhappy about it, because why do you developers do this?
Because oftentimes just to make a recognizable thing, and people are like, I recognize
but it's
that.
not.
That makes me happier.
That's the weird part. It's not a recognizable song. It's just copyrighted.
Well, they just want something quality, supposedly.
Like,
both like multiple Mass Effect games end with like a weird, like, I don't know, like electronic rock song or something in the credits, and I'm like, why is this happening right now? It's like unrelated to the music, and it's weird licensed stuff, which I think is what happened to the Andromeda video.
They do that because movies end with, at least 80s and 90s movies always end with some kind of weird rock song at the end.
It's so much better when you just license like a Miracle of Sound song or something.
I mean, I actually really did like the outro song in Mass Effect 1. I thought that was really good.
It's weird to suddenly have lyrics in a game that doesn't have lyrics and all this other music, though, so you're like caught off guard a little bit.
This is truth.
But it was also it was written by Jack Wall, who also did the music for Mist, Exile, and Revelation.
What I'm talking about specifically was they had a song by a completely different band for the outro for Mass Effect 1.
Oh, they did?
Yeah.
Oh, because he actually wrote the ending theme for Exile, and his wife sang it. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I like the game composers. I love anything that has Austin Wintory, not only because it is totally, like, YouTube-friendly, but also goddamn amazing.
So it looks like the song was called M4 Part 2, and it was played by the Fonts.
Yep.
Which is a hard word to say.
Okay. Mind switching topics? I've got one more game more games I can talk about.
Hey, does this mean you can actually talk about Spider-Man?
Okay, you talk, and then...
I played through something interesting. I played through the entirety of a game called Perception, which was weird.
That's the blind lady, right?
Yeah. So, first of all, it's weird because, like, you're just Daredevil. Like, you have all of that, like, magical, like, I'm basically seeing everything, but only kind of power. So everything that ever makes sound will make shockwaves to let you see everything. I beat the entire game in one sitting, which may have been a mistake because my eyes just started to hurt by the end. There's weird inconsistencies where when you're walking around, you get like a shockwave coming out of your feet along the floor.
Right.
Very brief, and it disappears into nothingness almost instantly. But if you press a space bar, you can use your cane to make a louder noise that actually reverberates the entire room in every direction. And you can see all of your surroundings basically almost perfectly. And it's really... So what happens is the game starts getting a little frustrating because about a half an hour in or so, they introduce a monster.
Ooh.
And so the monster will hunt you down based on sound.
Wait, so you can't use the very thing that you need to navigate.
Exactly. So like if you use the cane to make noise, you attract the monster the more you use it. and you get a slightly more menacing sound every time you use it until finally it just actually like finds you, basically. But it's
can
really
you hear
frustrating.
the monster and see where it is in the environment?
You can see it when it's going around.
Okay.
It's got it itself is a noise source, so you can always sort of see it coming as a result.
Right.
What's iffy is just the fact that like you can't see anything for much of the game unless you're creating sound. So like trying to navigate the environment to figure out where your objective is, to figure out how to proceed with the story is like actually kind of like an ordeal if you can't just use the space bar to see the room in a moment. And so it's a lot of like bumping into walls and just like blindly wandering around and like very carefully spacing out your use of audio sources because you don't want to be killed. And like it's almost like the game would have been better without the monster entirely and just letting you navigate this weird dark story, because what you're doing is you're actually you're experiencing via environmental storytelling and stuff. You're experiencing the stories of the people who previously lived in that house.
Oh, it's a house?
Yeah, you're exploring a house that you keep seeing in your dreams and you don't know why, and you start encountering the histories of all the different families over the centuries that have lived in that same house. And so it's like it's actually got like an interesting little backstory to go through, and it's really weird about its use of the blind stuff. On one hand, it's cool that you can hit something with your cane and like shockwaves come out, and you can like see the shockwaves of energy that you can use to navigate and everything, and that like that's an entertaining enough way to navigate, kind of like how Scanner Sombra had you shooting dots everywhere.
Okay.
But
now
it's really inconsistent about what creates noise. So there's tons of stuff in the environment that seems like it should be creating noise that just doesn't, apparently, because it doesn't affect your vision, and it's like lightning strikes and like air raid sirens and other weird background noises are like for some reason not making the game visible to you, which is weird. Like it'd be cool if a lightning struck and then for a moment you could see the entire house, for example, just like which is how lightning works in real life for eyes, actually. Like it's really inconsistent about that stuff. But they have really cool concessions about you being blind in two different ways that I really liked, which is that one, it's a modern day game. At least your character's modern day. So if you find a document you can't read, because no amount of Daredevil power is going to let you read like paper. You point your phone at it, and there's a Delphi text to speech app that reads things to you, which is amusing.
Yeah.
And then for more complicated things, you take a photo, and there's like the equivalent of like Uber or Tinder and stuff like that, like these like helpful modern apps that involve other people, but for blind people, which is that you take a photo of something and someone explains to you what the photo contains over the phone.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of that lately. I've also seen instances where you can take photos of something and it will create Braille for you too. That would be a quiet way of.
And that was my favorite part of the game, because of the fact that like things are getting more macabre and gruesome and questionable as the game goes on, and you're sending these photos to this one guy, and it's always the same guy, this one guy Nick, that keeps getting you because he's like at home cat sitting, and and he's like, "What are you in?" It's like, "Wow, what are you at? Like an escape room or something?" Because he's like seeing this weird like stuff, and he's thinking it's not real, and it's like a fantasy setting or something, like an escape room or a haunted house.
Oh, okay.
It's one of the best parts of the game, but the game, it's super iffy about what causes noise. It frankly causes like it's kind of uncomfortable to look at some point, trying to navigate.
Now,
and she doesn't seem to have any senses besides sound for some reason.
So, were there any instances in which you could actually say set an alarm clock or something so that you can escape the room and have the monster like go for the source of the sound so that you can bypass it? Were there any puzzles like that?
As far as I could tell, the monster did not physically exist in the world and would just come as a punishment of you using too much sound, basically. But one of the quirks that was useful is you could walk into a room that had like a TV and turn it on, and it would either be playing static or like a nature documentary or something, and it would be constantly making noise in that location, which meant you could see that room fairly well, like
but
for as long as the
monster
TV
would come
was
for you
on.
because it wasn't a sound you were making.
The monster never seemed to care about the TVs, as far as I could tell.
Right.
I made it through the entire game, and I only died twice, and only one of those was to the monster. The other one was a weird, like, chapter-specific quirk that came up that was kind of dumb, but I got through it. it's firmly in the territory of like those interestingly experimental games where I can't really tell if it's a good game necessarily or even was a good idea. But somebody went with someone went with an idea basically.
Yeah, I like that.
Like if you haven't yet, Wander, you should sit down for like a single session and just play Scanner Somber if it looks interesting to you at all, because it's only like 2 hours long.
So my problem with Scanner Somber was I saw all these like bigger YouTubers playing it and I was just like, I'll let them have it. I always kind of do that where it's just like, it's not even the fact that I'm not interested or the fact that I care about competition. It's just that like, there are so many other games that are getting coverage that like stuff like Scanner Somber and Soma and a bunch of these other ones that I'm like actually super interested in.
I just really get a kick out of the experiment of like just the weird idea, because that was the Darwinia people. Like they just make strange games.
Oh right, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, they made Darwinia, Prison Architect, DEF CON, and now like Scanner Somber and stuff like that.
Now, one thing that I was wondering though, I know that you guys were talking about like what series are worth it for you and what ones aren't, and I'm thinking to myself, with all the subscribers you guys have, if like it's one of those instances, you know, if everyone gave each video a watch, wouldn't you guys be pretty well off? But it seems like only like a fraction of the audience actually looks at certain videos.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, because it's sort
that's
of
why
like
people
how
make clickbait.
Someone can have you know, thousands of followers, but for a new like art piece that they put out, they only get 10 likes or something. It's like, but
it's
so
yeah,
what
like,
is it?
Well, first of all, like YouTube is full of casual users. People just log in, and if they like stuff, they just click subscribe on a bunch of different channels. But maybe they log in like once every 2 weeks, and like people aren't necessarily like actively using YouTube as their only entertainment source all the time. And they're not, and just because they subscribe to you, they're not going to fanatically watch everything you watch. So It kind of becomes a competition, because you have some people that are subscribed to 300 channels or more, and you're trying to sort of fight for their attention whenever they happen to pop by, which is why people like PewDiePie and Markiplier will like upload a video that unironically is titled, yet again, Scariest Game Ever! That doesn't even mention the game's name at all, and then it's their face looking shocked, and like there's exclamation points everywhere, and so much like pop in the thumbnail and everything, is because it's, clickbait works. And like when people are just casually opening a website, like, what am I gonna watch today? Like they're like just clicking on the thing that has the thumbnail that stands out. Like that's how you get the click, as opposed to say uploading episode 117 of Mass Effect Andromeda.
Works really well on kids, especially. For better or worse, but but that shit's also like super vapid. I don't know.
Yeah,
I could never see myself. Every once in a while, I find myself doing a like slightly clickbaity title, or at least I feel like it. So like my second episode of Fortnite is toilet bacon ?
But even that's like a thing that happens in the video.
Yeah, but you found bacon in the toilet.
Yeah. I know. It feels clickbaity. I'm just like,
and it's not like you still haven't gone to the level of like. First of all, let's see. I'm looking at I'm trying to load up your page real quick. Yeah, you put descriptions of videos at the end of the title anyway, so it's not clickbait if it doesn't show up in the part people can see.
It's true. I think it was you that found it first, or started doing it, that like put the game first and found that it was kind of better SEO. Yeah, originally I did title
looking at the playlist and seeing that the entire playlist looks like the left side all lines up.
Yeah,
until you get to part number, basically. True. But like you're still not like uploading a picture of a toilet and bacon and everything has like pop around it and is beveled and your face looks shocked and cross-eyed and you've morphed your face to make the eyes bigger and all this shit that people do right now on YouTube channels.
It's so weird.
Well, that's the thing. Also, like
we know people that do this.
Yeah.
Now the other thing too is YouTubers that, I mean, you guys, obviously people like you guys for your insight and your personality. But then there are the ones that there are so many requests for, why don't you do face cam and what? Like, I understand that there's a little bit more of a level of connectivity when they can actually see you or expressions. But it seems like only the YouTubers that really play into the use of their faces as part of their personas that would actually make those clickbaity videos.
Part of it is like you have to be the kind of person that emotes, and I'm not. Like, I feel like I'm actually kind of dead-faced whenever I'm doing stuff. I mean, maybe you who looks at me can kind of rebut this, but probably not. But, like, people like Markiplier have much more expressive and active faces as part of all these situations, so they can kind of get away with it as being part of the experience.
It's kind of like a really specific form of being, like, on all the time.
Yeah.
And it's like a bit rough.
Yes.
A part of me would think that you'd almost have to over-exaggerate and overact.
You do.
And then it would be really tiring.
So, this is why I specifically...
people are actors. That's what they're doing.
Yeah. This is why I specifically, sometimes say maybe a little bit mean things about highlights Let's Players in terms, like, in, coordination with collabs. Because oftentimes I will find, like, highlights Let's Players... or highlights YouTubers, or whatever you want to call it.
Which, to be clear, for those that are listening, like that's when you watch those YouTube videos that are actually kind of like the equivalent of Donkey videos, in that like it's cutting between a bunch of stuff really rapidly, and there's a bunch of funny moments in that video, but obviously it's recorded over the course of like 10 hours of stuff. Although I can't tell if any of Donkey's audio, commentary is live. Actually, in most
it's
cases.
Not. It can't be.
So I think the multiplayer stuff is, and that's it.
Yeah, his multiplayer stuff is, and his multiplayer mic is atrocious. I don't know what it is, but whatever.
I think he uses a different setting on his audio specifically to denote that it is live audio versus non-live.
I mean, it makes sense, and also he can get away with it because he's freaking Donkey.
Yeah, but you've had to deal with these YouTubers where they're trying to just make a highlight video while you're trying to make a Let's Play that's a full, like, where I'm going to upload this whole thing. And you'll listen to those people in your videos and be like, oh my god, wow, there's a toilet and there's a dildo and then they're just silent for 15 minutes.
Yep.
And then they'll cut together like the 10 seconds of crazy activity, and those will be their video, and you can watch Wanderbot's video be cut down to like 30 seconds basically of stuff that they used in their video, and you'll realize those are the only parts they really did anything from Wander's perspective, and it's like,
yep,
they're just baiting for moments to make the funny things happen, and then the rest of the time doesn't matter, and it's such a different approach that you can't really mix them.
Yep.
I know that there are analytics now for, how long does someone, watch your video concurrently before they click away or do something else?
I think the average has universally been about 10 minutes.
But what about,
no matter what you do?
What about when people click and drag to a further point in your video?
It still counts as watch time, past that point. But
really?
You can find exactly when most people like click away from a video. When I had my meeting with YouTube
which
manager,
parts are most watched, and like if you have like a time code somewhere in the comments or in an annotation or something like that, you can even see that like a X number of people skipped ahead in that part because the number of viewers at particular parts of the video will like drop then re-rise because they skipped to later, as opposed to just a constant dropping downward slant that it usually would be. Weird.
Yeah, it is weird. I like our content, even if it is not as marketable. So, are you still in, like, Dragast Discord, or no, not really?
I have been in it forever, but I never open it, because, like, the fastest moving Discord I have access to right now, and I don't know any of the names.
So I still have access to that, and every once in a while, somebody from there will be like, how do you put out, like, so many videos a day? And I'm like, I don't edit anything. I just, like, play games, record it, have fun, and then move on.
Yeah, without all the editing involved, you probably...
It saves me so much time.
Too much.
Yeah, because a lot of the people in that chat are the people that have pictures of their face, and they have, like, the Adam Sandler style, like, candy bubble font, and, like... The font is bright yellow and slanted and covering half the thumbnail, and there's a big wow like thing, and they're playing a kiddie game like Slime Rancher, and their videos are edited down to 10 minutes or less, and there's a lot of patterns you start to see where like they at one point there was actually like there was like a little bit of drama in that Discord because they like were all mad at one person for calling out everyone else in that group for the fact that you can put a lot of their channels side by side, and you can't tell which ones are which kind of.
Yep.
Oh.
And it's just a part of like it's just if you follow certain trends, you sort of start amalgamating into the same channel a little bit.
And it works, like even though it's kind of this like weird convergence of a style, it actually is arguably, as long as you mix it with good SEO and like market trends, it is actually the most effective way to grow on YouTube apart from like fidget spinners, but
Wait, because your videos look similar, you'll be suggested as one of the next
sort of.
videos
So part of it
to?
is, it's kind of like if you distill everything about like how to YouTube well down into like a very select set of attributes, and that as long as you kind of follow this and have a decent amount of like personality and skill, anybody can actually like grow really fast using this method. And it works for the most part, but it's just weird and it feels very mechanical when like being on the outside of it.
I've opened one of my top videos to go into the analytics just to talk about it, and it was my Silent Henry playthrough, which weirdly enough was like a Patreon sponsored video where somebody like stored up some credits and was like, "Hey, I want to see you play through Firewatch again, but you never ever say anything as the protagonist if you can avoid it," basically.
Okay.
And because it's a gimmick playthrough, as Wander has long since learned that stuff does weirdly well, even when you don't think it will.
Yeah, freaking Hardcore Spore is like my third or fourth watched video at this point, or it's like getting there.
Spore.
This 2.5 hour playthrough is like on my page of like top videos ever, which is weird to think about, especially with the origin. So I have to look at the analytics, and yeah, you have the giant spike at the beginning, which is that it starts at 100% because that's how percentages work. 100% audience retention when the video starts. Then, as the minutes go on, it drops significantly because it's a majority of the audience, the majority of the views are coming from outsiders that don't know me and don't care about me and stuff like that, because that's how the virally videos work. 15 minutes, there's a noticeable spike, which means that the people have a habit of jumping forward somewhere in an interval like 15 to 30 minutes to skip the beginning, basically, of a long video like this. And then you can also see a very significant chunk of the audience skips directly for about 2 hours and 22 minutes in, which is like a few minutes before the ending. Basically, they're trying to skip to the ending of the video to see how the playthrough ends, and without seeing any of the stuff in the middle. So like, you can actually watch that. You can actually watch the habits of people skipping ahead in videos as an overall trend, which is interesting. And like, there's actually like the analytics are like a monstrously powerful tool.
They're ridiculous,
except for the part where you can't do anything about most of them, and it actually just makes you get way too far inside your own head and question everything.
Yep. I intentionally don't look at them. When I had my meeting with my YouTube manager, she was like picking apart my analytics on pages that I'd never even heard of before.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I don't look at these because they are the depths of madness.
They ruin you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Jordy Jordan constantly tweets all the time about how well his videos perform and how he feels so defeated and stuff like that, and he's always talking about like the death of his channel and how he's basically an ex-YouTuber at this point. And I'm like, you gotta stop looking at numbers. You just desperately gotta look at them less and just make stuff, and it's fine.
Yeah,
because the more you obsess over it, the more that bleeds into the videos themselves, basically. The only thing I look at is I just look at the front page every now and then and just wow at the fact that my views per month is a number that's incomprehensible.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, wow, that's almost 1 million. What the fuck? I'm just me. What are you guys doing? How are there all these people? But I don't go past that. I can't. It's poison.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I know. And now with the age of the internet, there's just so many places where one can draw comparisons. And there are a lot of people that are trying to start, or they're trying to make something of themselves, and they're just like, oh, but I can't possibly get there and whatever. And it's because it's all so disheartening, and you see all the successes, and yeah, it's sad.
There's a trend with a lot of channels. There's basically two types of YouTube channels a lot of the time, and that there's the channel that is like specially tuned to be successful by doing all the exact things it has to do, and it kind of loses its soul along the way, like Game Theory. And then you just have weird channels that just do their own thing forever. And they just do the thing they feel like doing. And if you're following them without looking at numbers, you might feel like they're a big channel, but then you look at their actual numbers like, oh, wow, yeah, Wanderbot's going to pass these people soon and stuff like these. And it's people like Lindsay Ellis or Retsupre and stuff like that are like always like surprisingly small because they just do the thing they wanted to do, and whatever happens, happens. And surprise. Is she the one that
does all like the Disney critiques and other things?
Yeah.
Because you shared your videos, I've actually been watching a number of her things. I think it's hilarious.
So I actually get a lot of comments on my videos being like, this is so sad you've got like 100,000 subscribers, but this video only has 76 views and it's like 5 minutes into the like video being released, and I'm just like, you monkey.
Hey, don't say that.
What happens is that the way that popularity works is that because big channels are popular, those people have tons of subscribers, which means that most subscribers in the pool of YouTube people are probably subscribed to some of those channels, which means that they're trained to think that every video is going to have an incomprehensible ocean of comments, and it's going to have hundreds of thousands of views the day it uploads, and all these other things that aren't applicable for most people in the world. Because the minority that has that experience has the most exposure, and so that's the most accepted status quo for a channel, despite the fact that that's not how it actually works for anyone. Like, yeah, everyone's used to opening up like the game theory like YouTube stream, and like the chat's moving so fast you literally can't even try to read an individual comment at any point and stuff like that. Whereas, yeah, like you're big enough that you're making a living off of it, but yeah, you could just go read through the comment section of your entire video if you wanted to, and it ends after a page or something, and it's like, that's it. Those are the comments, because that's the reality for most people. That's normal. That's the non-PewDiePie experience.
You're getting distracted.
I'm mildly distracted by things.
And it's hard because I have to listen to things
unfortunately
that you're
you do.
distracted by, and then I can't focus on the conversation.
Sorry.
What gets old is that when we do these videos, we get comments that have been trained by the YouTube machine to be popular comments, because certain comments rise to the top automatically, usually memes and bullshit copy paste things like, "Oh, I'm here early, I better make a joke," and stuff like that. But so people constantly make those on our videos, but they're just a regular comment in a list of a handful of comments, and they just look like an insane person. My favorite one is when a comment says first on a video that was uploaded 8 months ago.
Yeah.
It's like first, it's like, you're not even here fast. It's just no one commented on this video. That's just the thing that happens. This is a blank canvas, and all you could add to it was shit.
So I have one last topic.
What about questions?
Pretty low on time. But let's do that when Bird's here.
Okay.
Yeah, just because questions feel kind of weird.
The first question I had open was directly targeted to Bird. I was like, he walked away, and I'm like, I guess I'm closing that.
Yeah, we'll do questions next week. But so I did the Warframe thing again, where I did a video on that Albion Online MMO that came out.
Yeah.
And I think I'm the #1 search result for it now.
Which was sort of bad.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of a one-off. Yeah, I was just gonna play it for a little while and be like, okay, this is fun. Maybe I'll play more, maybe I won't.
Was it any fun?
Fucking... I'm apparently... Oh, right. I went to your channel. Yeah, I am the #1. It's EVE Online crossed with RuneScape, but kind of super bare bones.
Because it looked miserable, especially when I saw like that it has phone integration and stuff like that. I'm like, oh, it's
I mean, honestly, it performs well
like an
enough.
iPad game.
It does look really garbage, and it doesn't animate much, which is how they can manage to run it on a thing. I mean, honestly, it looks like if RuneScape grew up a little bit.
You were not kidding about RuneScape. I just opened your video to an ocean of like 100 people standing on top of each other.
Yeah. So the first day, every single zone you went into had 200 to 400 people. Apparently, once the game hits 500 people, it just makes everyone else invisible to cut down on load and like server lag and whatnot, which
like
is
the
really
original
nice.
Guild Wars.
Yeah. But it was kind of miserable because there are all these people running around, and it still kind of is.
But didn't they all have their special starter backpack wagons?
So they gave me a press copy, which is the base version of the game, no bells and whistles. But I had access on the first day with all of the bells and whistles players, so I was literally the only guy who had access to the game that didn't have a horse, a cart, and fancy gear. And so all these people are running around looking like absolute, like... lords and ladies, and I'm a dude in a Speedo because that's the starting underwear.
It's bizarre watching your video where every single person besides you looks like the same person.
Yeah, I actually said later on, once I had armor, I was like, I actually like the fact that they didn't give me this special armor because I actually look like somebody different.
That was a complaint I got on the Fortnite video, was that somebody was like, oh, thank you for doing an actual playthrough of Fortnite.
Yeah.
Because everyone's video on everyone's channel is them with the exact same weird high-level gear and some, like, no-context, like, vacuum level, and no one knows what's going on or how they got there or what stuff does.
Yeah. And, like, I I was kind of floored going into this because I was just like, okay, so I'm starting behind everybody else because everybody had a horse, which meant the moment I went into town, it's just a sea of oxen and carts behind them. And I was like, okay, this is a nightmare. But then I get out into the world and it's immediately that RuneScape thing of people running from node to node, mining and killing and stuff like that. And so I'm like just kind of barely trying to like eke out some basic resources.
And then when you tried crafting those resources...
Yeah. So here's the kicker, and like the only reason why I'm playing at this point is because people seem to enjoy it, and like I can just accept that I'm going to Skinner box my way to boredom, just because people seem to enjoy it.
You're immune to Skinner box boredom at this point, right? Like
I am.
You got shots. You're immunized to it.
Well, I grew up with that shit because, like I said earlier in the podcast, my parents wouldn't let me buy a whole lot of games, so Skinner box games appeal to me. Because
you have to play.
I mean, you're right back to uploading Warframe again lately. I saw.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to kind of capitalize on it a little bit leading up to an open world thing.
You have way fewer episodes of that than I thought you would.
I cut out a lot of them because they simply were just me grinding, and I just deleted the footage because it wasn't interesting content. I'd be bugging you. If I knew you weren't busy for more, but I figure I'll save your time for more.
I can't play with you. I'm in a whole different tier from you now. I know. Because that game handles your progression on an account level, we can't even like make tunes together to play with just each other like another MMOs.
And the thing was with Warframe as well, I tried joining them again just briefly, and they whizzed through the levels so fast. Everything was just a flurry of sparks and stuff, and then it was all done.
I had I had a number of Warframe levels I played with Wander and other people where I literally didn't feel like I did a single thing the entire time.
That happens.
So an issue that happens here, for those who don't know, is that like when Wander gets a Skinner box he enjoys, he will start just burning time into it. And so the problem is like some games like World of Warcraft, you can just make like 10 characters in a server and it's like whatever, so he can like vent into some other character on an alt if he wants to. But a game like Warframe, it's like, no, your entire account is a singular progression system. And it's like, oh, well, before long, like literally like a series that started with Bird, Keith, and Shell became Wander plays with audience members?
Yeah. Audience members with at least passable mics.
Speaking of World of Warcraft, no.
But I want to go back to Albion Online before we're done. Okay, Shell, fine. You bring this up every podcast.
We bring it up all the time, and then nothing ever happens.
I need
I actually leveled an entire character through Warlords of Draenor and had a blast because I could read everything.
We've been reading everything.
Lately, we've been reading everything, and I appreciate that.
That lately part has been like half of our overall World of Warcraft series now, because that expansion is long.
Yeah. But so the killer part for Albion Online, the thing that frustrated me the most is, so like all MMOs, there's tiered resources. So there's copper, there's iron, there's tin, there's stuff like that. So you kind of like slowly go up the ladder. And of course, it requires more and more grinding to get up there, which is kind of frustrating. And the entire game is based on like making you grind as hard as possible. So you feel compelled to buy into premium, which gives you bonus EXP. Ooh.
Yeah.
And so the frustration is, so you have to do this like incredible grind already, and I'm getting half the resources premium players are. So it means I'm going like extra slow, and you also get half the EXP and half all these things. And you don't get a private island, which is important because once you get up to T4, which is when the game actually starts opening up, you are at the mercy of public crafting stations. But the public crafting stations are privately owned. So imagine if you were in World of Warcraft and you go to Ironforge and you want to go blacksmith some stuff, level your blacksmithing. There will be 4 blacksmith anvils over the entire city, and each will be owned by player A, B, C, and D, and each one can set their own fee associated with it. So imagine to smelt 1 bar of iron, it's going to cost you about a gold piece. And it requires you to make, 16 just so you can make a weapon. And so
you burn through everything.
Yeah, I was looking at it and it's like, to make a new armor set, I'd bankrupt myself.
What if they make a pact to keep everything high?
Well, so like, as long as these people don't run out of like the basic fuel resource to keep this station, they can. And so like, I went into a city today because I was traveling from one section of the world to another, and the prices were like 100 to 200% tariffs on everything, and I was just like, this is totally unfeasible. And the way to get around it is go premium. You can make your own crafting benches, or join a guild and you can use theirs. So I joined a guild, and they're like, okay, yeah, welcome in. And turns out the basic level people don't get access to their crafting station. So I'm like, well, this is bullshit.
Oh.
Back to, yeah, I know. But just, it's one of those MMOs that is so based on like free market economics that I'm like kind of losing my mind.
My least favorite thing about all MMOs.
I know.
Oh,
That was
yeah.
that was what broke Diablo 2 for me. I was like, oh, this game's so fun. I like making different character builds and play through all these different difficulties. And oh, time to learn about the SOJ and rune market.
Yep.
No, I don't want to barter with humans. I want to play a video game.
Right, and like, because when you're bartering with humans, or even some games have like AI that try to build things off of supply and demand. People could like flood something one day, and something could be rendered rare another, and you just can't rely on it at all.
Yep.
I have some interesting background news about something we haven't thought about for a while.
What?
Okay.
Remember we talked before about the idea of maybe eventually doing a series on Secret World, because it's like a weird like alternate approach to MMOs where you kind of like solve the quest sometimes, and like you have to read the dialogue and figure out what's going on, and like it seemed like an interesting fresh take on the genre. They've apparently like rebooted the game as Secret World Legends.
Yeah, they rebooted it, all mushed into one thing, and with like slightly better combat.
And that's happening like in a week.
Okay, I'd be down.
So actually, yeah, if you wanted to finally check out Secret World in its new form, like we've talked about doing Secret World for a while. If we wanted to do that, its new version coming out might be an interesting time to take a look at it. Actually,
how long of a game is that though? Because I mean, obviously
it's an MMO.
lengthy, but it's also, so it doesn't do the World of Warcraft thing where you're just kind of like going from area to area. There are very distinct quest lines. And I believe it's one of those where you also could... I don't know if there's level restrictions like
there's no level cap, if I remember correctly. You can just infinitely keep gaining skill points by leveling, basically, and then you can just put that into whatever type of class category you want. And I think everyone is technically every class, but would want, but like you'd want to specialize in things probably and stuff like that. It was every time I hear about it, people tell really cool stories about it the same way that they do about EVE Online, and I never can judge it directly because I haven't really gotten around to it.
That seems like something that would be more interesting to check out than most other MMOs, just because, like, okay, there's actually like,
because we were considering
give us stuff
doing
to talk about.
Destiny and other things.
Well, Destiny is I believe a definite for the three of us. Yes.
Yeah. Destiny games aren't even long. You just play through a shooter campaign and go pew pew, and then if you really want to, you can become a raider if you don't value your time.
I was going to suggest, I know enough YouTubers that we could potentially get a raid group together for a short period of time. I think that would be enjoyable.
Just gotta hit them up for a collab.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of it would be like Batbeard and people that we've got on hand more actively.
What a weird coincidence. I just randomly felt like Googling this MMO that I haven't thought about forever because you were going on about this MMO for so long. And I'm like, weird. It's rebooting like in a week.
Yep.
That's really weird.
Well, also, hadn't we been talking about like ESO and other things? And then there was... No.
Well, we were talking about it maybe for the Morrowind thing, but then it also turns out that the expansion pack was kind of lame. So it's
really? Because I know that they added like the Ranger class.
Oh, yeah. I got another game to recommend to Shell.
What?
I talked about like all these Mist-like games that I've mentioned that she might want to either...
era?
Yeah, these games that she might want to either play on her own, just in general, or even record or something like that. Like there was Abduction, of course, and that you guys got around to, but then there was Quern, I mentioned to you, I think, at some point.
Oh, yeah.
And then The Room 1 and 2, and now I'm playing The Eyes of Ara, and that's very much in that feel. It's a kind of a point and click in that you click to get around, but instead of being a fixed camera angle, you have a fixed standing position and you can rotate.
No H at the end. He was trying to see if he got any copies of it.
I get a lot of games. I did get a couple of mislikes this week, and I was considering picking them up.
It's spelled ARA.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you,
because he was starting to get Guild Wars stuff.
You may enjoy that game. It's got the original Myst sort of click to move around thing, but instead of a fixed camera angle, you physically like you can drag the mouse to rotate around in your fixed standing position.
Right. They introduced that with the second game, and then in the third game they had you could look up into the sky now. It was weird playing the original Myst for Carl's audience, but it was the newer edition, the real Myst one, because they had day and night cycles, and you could look everywhere. I actually set it to click to move though, because I know I would get like stuck on random objects and stuff and go places where I shouldn't if I allowed myself to.
This is obscure, but I don't know if you would have found out about it. But Wander, did you hear about what happened with the game titled Tidwag Via Nimad?
No.
Wait, what?
What?
So
Tidvad Via Nimad?
It's a game that has its language. It's an English game. Like you play it, you can play, or at least either it's playable in English or it doesn't have language in it or something. I'm not really sure. But the title of the game is Tidwag Via Nimad, and it was something I just stumbled upon randomly because it's a recent release and stuff, and I grabbed a key for it while I was at it. And amusingly, their most recent update on their page, the Steam updates, it says, "We have decided to add the English translation of the name in brackets to the store title due to low sales."
Nice.
Now the now the game on Steam is called Tidvagni Vir Nimand, and then in parentheses, time waits for nobody.
Okay.
It's like, that was probably...
I mean, it makes sense.
It's a bit of a miscalculation to be like, I'm going to put the entire title in a different language and see how it works out. That only works if you have a one-word title, because that's just a cool
word. I had
word.
a developer email me, sending me their game that's like 6 months old, and they're like, yeah, due to low sales, we did like an emergency English translation. Can you please cover it? I'm like, I'd love to, but time. Also old game, also what?
Emergency English translation.
Yeah, and it wasn't good. Like, I was looking at the screenshots, I'm like, oh, that's a lot of spelling errors already. Like, they really just did an emergency machine translation of this.
Oh no, it's a really emergency. Oh yeah, and this might interest you on an anime level, as Andrew and I have been playing 999.
Yeah, I've been interested in 999 for years. It's just time.
That game is it's a visual novel about Japanese people in an escape room, basically. And boy, oh boy, is it more of a visual novel than anything else.
Yeah, I got the impression from that.
One of the most aggravating experiences is being in an escape room, but instead of being able to do stuff yourself, you read a novel about other people trying to solve the escape room. And like,
so you solve the puzzle and you're trying to get them to.
There's a lot of moments of like having straight up solved the puzzle already and knowing the future, basically, that where we feel like clairvoyance half the time in this playthrough when we're just watching idiots slowly stumble through really basic stuff. You eventually get to do these first person puzzle segments that straight up control like Myst, where you're clicking on different parts of the room to go and get a special camera angle for that part, then interact with stuff in it. But like, those parts are so brief and the puzzles are so simple and then basically just require basic exploration. But even worse, every time you click on anything, it has the Legend of Zelda syndrome where all things talk. So if you click on a thing and like, I'm going to look at this drawer, and like your three people in the room are all talking about this drawer now and this in dialogue that it's happening that you can't not have. And like, so literally everything you interact with in the escape room when you do get to play is all dialogue every time you click on anything, and sometimes triggers an entire 10-minute conversation that's fully voiced. And I'm like, oh my goodness. It's been a trip. I've been very happy that I'm doing it with a second person, because if I was doing it alone, I would lose my mind. But we can just laugh at it together when it gets frustrating and its weird quirks.
Yeah,
but despite all the issues, we still genuinely are like, oh, what's gonna happen though?
Yeah, no, it looked amazing. I played it. I want to say the first half hour on the DS when it came out originally, but
from the makers of Danganronpa.
Yeah,
made the Dangan series trilogy and the Zero Escape trilogy now.
It's actually interesting. I remember looking forward to games because of voice acting, but now I find that we like games that don't have it, so that we can.
I actually will vet games, it's like, does it have voice acting? No. Okay, then I'm gonna see if I can do a series on it, because Shell and I enjoy voice acting through it. We should probably wrap this up. Anything last you want to cover, or
from what? Sorry.
Anything else you want to talk about? Or
I thought you referred to something. No, that's basically what I've been up to lately. I feel like there's something, but it's probably
there's a billion
better
other games.
for later.
I want to talk about Immortal Planet, and we can talk about some other things.
Right, and we should probably record discussions about Spider-Man and Castlevania at some point.
Yeah, if you want to do a Spider-Man
Castlevania
spoiler
the anime,
cast,
you mean?
Yeah.
Oh,
well,
fun.
we can talk about Castlevania next week, but if you want to do a Spider-Man spoiler cast in the middle of the week, that wouldn't be a bad idea.
Yeah, we can figure out a time for it.
Also, we still have D&D tomorrow, right?
Yes.
Yep. God, and at some point this week, I think I'm going to try to get myself to record a Mass Effect Andromeda spoiler cast. Just all on my lonesome, because I literally don't know a single human being who beat the game, because everyone gave up.
Yeah.
But I did, and now I have stories to tell.
I still get questions being like, are you gonna play it anymore? And I'm like,
just link to my spoiler cast.
Yeah, sure. I've actually actively told people, go watch Keith's.
How much money did you spend on it, though?
$60.
Ugh.
Happens. Like, it's the nature of the game.
Less than $60 technically.
Yeah, like a little bit less.
Because you paid for the EA Early Access thing, which gave you a discount on Mass Effect that was actually bigger than the price of being an EA's Early Access thing for a month. So, like, probably like 55 or something. But yeah, it's still big price for an unfinished game.
Yes.
Were any of the characters or relationships worth it?
Liam's not really a very well developed character necessarily. He just has a really good loyalty mission that's like high production value and actually is like the most fun mission of the entire game, and it's baffling that the rest of the game can't learn from that mission on how to make the game fun. But PB and Drac are like the only characters that are developed as people. And if you're a male character romancing PB, or I guess everyone could probably romance PB if that's how Asari usually go, then like you get a whole bunch of like there's a very long and like developed arc of her character, and her loyalty mission builds on her character, and even like the romance scene is like very carefully animated in a way that's jarring because the game never looks like that. And all the way down to having like an Asari, like Liara, like, oh, alternate universe, boom, eyes change color moment, like what happened at the end of Mass Effect 3. And nothing else in the game comes close to that. It's really bizarre, which is unfortunate because a lot of people don't like PB, which should be valid because everyone should be able to gravitate towards different characters. But the game just forgets half the characters exist midway through the game, and they just stop developing.
That sucks.
Like I was pursuing Vetra for a bit because Turians are fun and all that, but like she just stops developing as a character or even having scenes for most of the game, and even her loyalty mission is more about her sister than her. Like it's such a missed some of these characters are such a missed opportunity. It's
we had planned that our character would try to end up with what was his name? Gil?
No.
The alien. The new guy.
Oh, Jal.
Oh.
Jal, yes. I knew it started with a J. And but it was just awkward at the beginning. Because it was like, hey,
people have
you?
complained about Jal before because they would like try a flirt option once and then never again and never show them interest and then clearly be in a relationship with a different character the entire game. But once you do get past Jal's loyalty mission, he shows you his home and he literally takes you to his bedroom at one point, which happens no matter what romance or not. And for me, as a male character that had not shown no interest in him, I'm like, this is slightly weird. I feel like this could be weird. But if you've shown any interest in him at that point, even a single time, then he straight up, like, it's clear that he took you to his room to have sex with you. It's, like, really awkward.
Really?
And it's like, oh, shit. This, like, escalated so hard.
We didn't flirt with anyone. We were just trying to have conversations with the people.
Yeah, we never got there.
But people were like, "Why didn't you flirt with people?" It's like we don't even know these characters
yet. I
yet.
get hate
and
comments on Persona being like, "Why don't you romance somebody already?" And I'm like, "I'm just trying to be friends."
Why can't we just have friends?
Okay, I'm gonna have to put the brakes on.
Yeah, we gotta
have to go eat on camera.
Yeah, my stomach's been growling.
You guys, next time, send your questions to fournerdsquestions@gmail.com because I still haven't made a new one that makes more sense. And we'll hopefully read them when Bird's actually here at the end of a podcast. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bye.